The meeting will come to order. Barbara, will you please call the roll?
We have Commissioners Berard, Fleming, Thunderbird, Levine, and Noonan present.
This proceeding is broadcast on Channel 35. The exact broadcast times can be found by contacting Channel 35. And the first item on the agenda is opening remarks by me, and I have none. But we are going to take item 9 before we move to other parts of the agenda. Item 9 is a resolution honoring Adina Roberts, Information Technology Services, upon completion of 46 years of department service on her retirement. Marcy, who is going to present?
I was just asking that. I believe it's Matt Lamp, the CIO.
Okay, good.
Good morning. Great pleasure, but with a bit of sadness, that we have Dina retiring now. She has been a tremendous addition to ITS over these years. In the 6.5 years I've been here, she's been somebody I found who could be relied on to both make sure things got done that she was going to do and to fearlessly bug me on things I needed to do to help her get her things done. So let me do a quick history. Dina was hired as an office trainee in commercial, now CSD, in 1968. In 1971, she was promoted to a clerk typist in what's now ITS, and then proceeded through the ranks in ITS as a data processing technician, a senior data processing technician, and in 1984 became an information systems operations manager, which is the position she still holds today. Initially, she was the ISOM on the midnight shift. In 1990, she moved over to be responsible for our disaster recovery activities. And then worked on the ITS portion of our year 2000 recovery plan. She has lived through and helped manage 4 data center moves. The data center moved to the old AOB. The data center moved back to JFB from the AOB. The move of our disaster recovery sort of what I would call mini site out at the ECC that we had, and then the move to our current much more full-service disaster recovery site at Switch in Nevada, where we operate today. Very, very significant activities for us. She has managed the Switch contract from identifying potential sites for an out-of-basin recovery center all the way through getting us fully equipped in that site and operating on a daily basis there as well. To everybody who's worked with her, she is always pleasant. She's been a wonderful team member throughout. She's been part of the information security group for the last few years and contributes to that team far beyond just the disaster recovery work that is her primary responsibility. So Dina, I thank you for tremendous efforts and just being a great member of our team throughout.
Although this is pretty much already covered in your remarks, I'm just going to take the liberty of reading the resolution, which reads, whereas Adina Roberts, Information Systems Operations Manager, is retiring after 46 years and 3 months of distinguished service with the Department of Water and Power of the City of Los Angeles, and whereas Adina D. Roberts began her career in 1968 as an office trainee in the commercial division and was successively promoted to more responsible positions of clerk, clerk typist, data control assistant, data processing technician, senior data processing technician, and information systems operations manager, whereas she conducted herself throughout her long career with professionalism and dedication, and her extensive knowledge of the information technology, disaster recovery, and business continuity processes has proven to be of great value in serving the department and the ratepayers of the City of Los Angeles. Now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Water and Power Commissioners, on behalf of management of this department, its employees, and the citizens of Los Angeles, commend Adina D. Roberts for her distinguished career and expresses its sincere appreciation and wishes her a long and happy retirement. Be it further resolved that the Secretary be instructed to place her resolution in the minutes of this board as a permanent record, and that an engrossed copy of her resolution be presented to Adina D. Roberts in recognition of her long and faithful service. And so I'd like you to come up so I can present you with this resolution. Yes. The other board members congregate in the presentation. Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Let's get everybody around so that we can get a picture. What do we do with this chair? Marcy, after you do that, you should be in the picture.
Oh, absolutely. Please, Marcy, the chair movement's under related duties.
Very nice.
Can you get us all in?
All in. Here you go. Okay. All right, here's the first one. That's good. Big smile. Look here. A couple more. Again. Smile again. That's good. A couple more. Good, right there. And one last one. On two. Ready? 1, 2. Very good. Thank you.
Congratulations. You're going to be missed.
Thank you.
You got it?
I got it.
Okay, great.
Thanks.
I can swap chairs with my brother, so Alvaro probably shrinking. I'm sorry. Oh, absolutely.
Who is also a retiree from the department.
Oh, my goodness. Hi.
Hi.
Bill. Hi, Bill.
Let's everyone scoot over a little bit more again.
Okay. Outdone him by 4 years.
Yes.
Wives have a tendency to do this. He looks a lot older.
All right. First one, good smile right here. Turn yourself a little bit. Yeah, that's good, just like that. Hey,
Actually, he looked younger is what I usually.
tilt this up just a little bit. Yeah, that's good. Okay. Good smile again. Look here. Okay, very good. Smile again. Good. And one last time. Very good, right there. Very nice. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks. Thank you. Congratulations. Congratulations, Adina. We move to item 2 on the agenda, report briefing by the general manager.
We need a vote for the resolution?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah. Is there a motion to approve the resolution? So moved. Is there a second? Second. Those in favor? Aye. You have a unanimous vote approving the resolution. And Jill says now you have to stay. Marcy?
Thank you, sir. Good morning to all of you. Very briefly, and I know all of you got the memo, we did make some organizational adjustments as of late, and David Wiggs is assuming the role of our Chief Administrative Officer. Randy Howard is taking over the power system, and I'd like to welcome Randy to the executive team. And with that, the only comments we have this morning, Randy?
Good morning, Commissioners. In your pile that was awaiting for you is a copy of last week's Mayor's Dashboard, and so I just wanted to touch on a few highlights as we continue to work down some of the issues on customer services and the billing. You'll see that the week before, so this is always a week behind, the week before we had an uptick in customer calls as we continue on our commercial side on our severance process and trying to reduce the amount of outstanding balances due that are greater than 90 days. And so we've had an increase in calls, and those calls take a little bit longer in duration as they're making payment arrangements and other activities associated with helping those customers pay the bill. One of the things that I did want to highlight is we've worked down the majority of that list associated with our commercial customers that are in the arrears greater than 90 days, and we hope to initiate our residential. So our residential customers that are in the arrears greater than 90 days and initiate the severance process. It's a lengthy process, but it's also something that we have to start tackling because we currently have 216,000 customers that are in the arrears greater than 90 days. The outstanding balance in arrears greater than 90 days is currently about $87.5 million. We've always had residential customers in the arrears greater than 90 days, but historically that number is about 55,000 on average, and it's usually about $14 million. So we have much greater number and a greater balance due. So we plan on phasing in that process. We're going with the oldest first. We're not going with the greatest dollar amount. That's the way we tackled the commercial. But for this group, we're going to start with the oldest first and start working through the process. We have currently provided 3 soft communications to these customers, letting them know that this was coming, and so they will receive a formal notice that we're going to initiate severance. It's about a 29-day process from the point of first notification that they're delinquent and we are going to terminate service. As you can imagine with this number, it's going to take us a while because we are not going to overwhelm the call center. We're going to ensure that these people can get access to our call center reps, and so we're going to have to phase it based on the volume and the backlog of our call center. But I wanted to let you know that we are going to start that process and initiate it. So,
I have one question.
certainly.
How confident are we at this time that the arrears are accurate?
So of the 216,000 customers that are in arrears, they've all been billed. They've had the bills for greater than 90 days. And at this point, we do not have any information that would say these bills are inaccurate or incorrect. So we will find that might be the case as we pursue the severance process and they finally do contact us and say the reason I haven't paid might be because I believe it's incorrect. We'll work through that process then, but we need to initiate that process.
Other questions from commissioners?
Thank you.
That's your report?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Comments from commissioners on agendized items and requests from commissioners relating to departmental operations. Commissioner Fleming.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just want to note that I spotted something in the LA Times yesterday. As you probably know, there had been a push by some to make this commission a full-time paid commission. Kind of from the Main Street to Wall Street line here. I just wanted to celebrate the work of my fellow commissioners who put in so much time, both what we see here in this big room and then all the meetings that folks have in between all of those and the hearings and the trips out to Inyo that commissioners do. And I noted that the folks on Wall Street said that if we had a full-time commission that was another layer of bureaucracy, it'd be a credit negative, and it would add another level of complexity, something we obviously don't need here. They also recommended, I guess, one of these a paid staff of 10, and I would like to say that I think Barbara and Susie do the work of 10, but we obviously don't need that many more folks. So I just wanted to celebrate the hard work of my fellow commissioners and the time and effort that you all give to the ratepayers of this city and costing the city, other than treating us to a lovely cup of coffee every couple weeks when we're here, costing the city absolutely nothing. So I just want to salute your hard work.
And we salute yours. Other commissioner comments? Commissioner Broad.
Thank you, Commissioner Fleming. We appreciate that. I wanted to thank Joe Romallo. I thought I saw him a minute ago, Communications. After our meeting, our last commission meeting, I think within an hour, the city council members were posting notices on their emails for people to watch out for the scams of people saying that they were going to disconnect their service and they had to pay in cash. I think that was good. But what I wanted to ask is if it's possible that we make this same announcement to the public in an insert with the bills. Because not everybody is getting emails and reading these from their city council members. I think you open your bill, there's the insert. I think that's a closer way to reach people because they're still scamming. They're still calling, whoever it is, still calling residences and commercials operations and saying, we're going to disconnect your service unless you pay us in cash. And we need to get the warnings out that we don't do that. We don't ask for people to go to CVS and get a money order or ask for cash or any of the things that they're saying. But I think we need to get it closer to our customers. And that's why I'm asking that it be put in the bill and an insert. And also, if people get these calls, this is what I'm asked by people who've gotten these calls. What do I do? Who do I call? People have called here, and they have to wait 45 minutes or an hour and a half, and they just hang up. So who do they report it to, if anybody? And what are we doing to try to stop it? But first, I see Joe. What can we do to get this in an insert so people can see it directly?
I'm going to check on that because I believe it just started in the May 1st issue. So let me confirm that, and I'll get back to you. If for some reason it isn't, we'll get it fixed. But last time I was here, I think I had said it was scheduled to go in the next one. So let me confirm that, okay? Great. The other thing is we have in the past had a direct line to security for reporting issues. Let me check with Pat Findlay on that and see if that's a number that we can or have highlighted. Okay.
Oh, good. That would be great.
And too, for any customers that are watching this, which always surprises me that customers do watch this. But for those that are watching, don't wait on the phone for that type of issue. Just send it in an email. We have the email format. We will receive that. They don't have to wait, and we'll be able to follow up. We'll get that through our security and through LAPD and continue to keep LAPD informed of those customers that are receiving that, and then hopefully they will do some follow-up as well directly with those customers.
Well, that's what I was going to ask, Randy. Are we working with another agency to try to identify who these people are and stop it?
I would ask Pat Finley to come up, and he has been working with LAPD on this very issue.
Yes, Commissioner, we have been in contact with LAPD on this. Matter of fact, after our last meeting last week, I spoke with Chief Mike Moore. What I'm doing right now is compiling, because I get the emails off our security services website where they can email us directly and we respond back, but also from customer service. They send them to me. We're compiling a group of those. We're going to forward it to them and meet with their detectives to see if they can establish any patterns. We've tried ourselves, again, I think as I said at the last meeting, to identify where the callers are coming from. We identified one was calling out of Fort Lauderdale in Miami, calling over here. I mean, it's they've been the ones we've been able to identify with that because they use spoofed numbers are even have been out of state. So it's difficult to track them down, but that is currently what we're doing. I mean, I had Wolfgang Puck's restaurant last night from LA Live had sent me on our security side an email. I personally called them right back and told them, don't pay. It's just a scam. This is going on. So we're trying to do the best we can to educate our ratepayers on this.
Thank you very much. Thanks.
Any other commissioner comment? I believe we have 5 people who wish to make public comment. Barbara?
Yes. Please keep your comments to 2 minutes. The first speaker is Richard Sanchez.
Morning. My name is Richard Sanchez from Icon CDC. I do the small direct install business, the outreach for Icon CDC. I have a story to share from a barbershop in Pacoima. I was there last weekend to complete their small business direct install program, and he stated that some customers stated that he remodeled his business, and he did it, and he said he's very grateful for that. He had a contractor out there to try to do the upgrade, and he stated they want to charge him like $5,000, and I went there, and it was free, and he was very grateful for this program. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay, the next speaker is Maria Rutledge.
Good morning. My name is Maria Isabel Rutledge, and I received the services from your Home Energy Improvement Program that I'm here to say thank you, because I truly feel that it was of great benefit to me and my family. They came and inspected my whole home. They found one of the main things that they found was that my floor heater was very corroded. They checked everything from the ceiling to the ground under the house, and I had not turned on my heater for a while, and I had the thermostat fixed, and I intended to turn it on, but they found that it was so corroded that if I had turned it on, I would have had a major issue in my house. And so I consider that they saved my life by coming that day and doing this service. When they first called, I didn't believe that this was a free service. I couldn't believe that I thought it was a scam. You know, elderly people get all these calls all the time. And I called around, I called Agenda, Scope to ask, what about it, because I know they work with the DWP. And they said that it was legit, that I should go ahead and have them come, and I did, and I'm so grateful that they did. Thank you very much, and I do hope that this program, this Home Energy Improvement Program, continues, because I could imagine that not just saving money and bill, that energy saving, but in my situation, I feel it saved my life. Thank you so much.
Excuse me, ma'am?
Yes.
Where do you live?
Manchester and Vermont.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, the next speaker is Gina Rosen.
I actually want to just leave an item 13. Should I start from now, or?
Okay, I'll change the number on the card if you'd rather wait. Then the next speaker is Mike O'Gara.
Good morning. My name is Mike O'Gara. I'm president of the Sun Valley Area Neighborhood Council. I'm here speaking on my own as an individual because we haven't had time to vote on the issue I'm going to make you aware of. LADWP has been accepting solar electrical generating projects into the FIT program under the State Solar Act guidelines, which basically exempt most city processes from regulating these entities, including the planning department, where a project would normally be evaluated for environmental problems and zoning change. These project locations are coming to us as what they call by right. So neighborhood councils do not get to weigh in on these at all. Right now, we have an electrical, these are not just solar projects. These are electrical generating plants. The one in Lakeview Terrace right now is 2.6 acres. Man's going to come in there. He's going to put in 3,500 solar panels. Okay, there's. I'm going to hand out these. The large one is just 106 projects that LADWP is going to buy power from. These are all in our neighborhoods. They're in residential areas, and we have no controls over this. So. Because they're labeled as solar projects, and they're not. They're generating electricity. In my neighborhood, Sun Valley, there's 4 of them on here. One is going to generate 3,000 kilowatts of power. That's got to be over 5 acres of land, and it's going to be 7,000 solar panels on that lot in a residential area. Most of these do not tell you where they're at. And this is from LADWP's site. Felipe Fuentes, who is a council member for CD7, is submitting a motion to Energy and Environment Committee tomorrow of the City Council, which is calling for us to be able to control these. But we need your help. We need you to stop buying. There's a particular person who's doing most of these projects. He's suing city agencies and state agencies all across the United States because all of a sudden they wake up, he's coming in as a solar generator place, but he's building big electrical plants. So we need somebody from LADWP, from the power department, to come and get involved with us to stop buying power from this guy where he's going to put these things in a residential area. Thank you very much. Would somebody please come? There's somebody else going to talk. I'm from Sun Valley. Somebody's going to talk from another neighborhood. And we'd like somebody to talk to us about this. Who
If you
can I
hand
give
those
this
to the officer right there, Bill,
Thank you very much.
we'll pass them out for you.
There's 10 documents.
Thank you.
Okay, the next speaker is Nancy Woodruff.
Good morning. I'm Nancy Woodruff. I am the Vice President, Land Use Chair for Foothill Trails District Neighborhood Council, as well as Latuna Canyon Community Association. Mike O'Gara and I were at an appeal hearing last Thursday regarding this particular project that he referred to previously. There was a local resident who made an appeal to the fact that there was lack of process in installing these 3,500 solar panels within a neighborhood and within a residential property. The appeal came before the North Valley Planning Commission. The appeal was upheld in total, which is a very unusual set of circumstances. That was primarily due to the council motion and the amount of information that Councilman Fuentes presented. I'm just kind of following up to let you know the appeal went through. The process will probably be long. We don't know how long this is going to happen and where it's going to go. But there were a couple more things that Councilman Fuentes has brought up in a number of meetings, as well as our customers. And number one, it's the lack of transparency. With this list that comes out, the allocation list on the FIT site, there are over 300 listings at this point. Some of them appear to be duplications. They indicate the amount of wattage that is being going to be created and kind of where the projects might be, i.e. through city areas or zip codes or the like. But there is no indication whether they are land-based or whether they are on-site, rooftop, and existing parking lot generating stations, which is what the Solar Act really is directed towards. It is directed towards rooftop and existing parking lots. Finally, besides the transparency concern, there's been a concern of the community relative to the price structure that is being allocated to these original feed-in tariff people. I understand the current rate is about 6.5 cents per kilowatt, and your original contracts are apparently going for 17 cents, which is 3 times as much. And customers want to know why we're going to be paying through for this extra amount. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
That's the last card for this item.
Okay, we move to agenda item number
excuse me.
yes, Commissioner Broad.
Can we comment on this?
Sure.
I'm concerned about this, and I think that our commission ought to take some position on this issue, because it's not that it's anti-solar, but it's creating a lot of negative feedback in the communities because these solar farms are in residential areas. And it's also disproportionate where they are, because a lot of them, I think 1/5 of all these solar farms are in the 7th City Council District. And it's concerning me that they're exempt from going through the planning department, and that it's by right. I mean, people they live in certain areas because of open space, and now they're solar farms. And how many of us would want solar farms in our residential communities? So I think we really do need to look at this. What, if anything, we can do? What's our position on this issue? The question is, where are you going to locate them? And also, I think, reading Felipe Fuentes' motion, that he says that these are disruptive to neighborhoods, and I think we can't ignore that.
Well, as I read Councilman Fuentes' motion, he's suggesting that the appropriate city officials review the Solar Rights Act and make some judgment about what might make sense in terms of the city. I happen to be the author of the Solar Rights Act when I was in the state legislature in something like 1978 or 79. And the purpose of it, I can tell you, was primarily a residential purpose. It was to ensure that people who put solar on their houses would not find somebody coming in next door and blocking their solar access. And as the legislation, the Fuentes motion suggests, the technology has changed substantially since 1978. It was quite primitive at the time, and there was a real concern that somebody would go to the time and expense of putting solar on their home and then find it blocked subsequently. So I think there is room for careful analysis of the changes between 1978 and 2014. I have a particular interest in this as the author of the Solar Rights Act, and I will call Felipe and see if we can work together in trying to deal with some of these concerns.
Yeah, that's what I was going to suggest, that our commission work with the E&E committee to resolve this and see what we can do.
I don't think we need a motion on it.
Okay.
But I can assure you that I will follow up.
Yeah, good, because I'm hearing from neighborhood councils in many areas, particularly, in the valley, and so I would like to work on
obviously, different parts of the city are situated differently here.
Yeah.
People with more open space are more likely to be more negatively impacted. Those of us who live in parts of Los Angeles that have less open space are likely to be more concerned about maintaining this solar access so that their solar rights are not impacted. So it requires a balancing.
Yes, definitely. Okay, thank you. And I wanted to thank the people who came today to talk about this, Mike O'Gara, Nancy Woodruff. Thank you very much for bringing it to our attention.
We move to agenda item 5, comments from ratepayer advocate on agendized items. Dr. Pickle.
Three brief comments. One, via the LAPD and a senior lead officer in the Wilshire Division, I received the scam alert, which is obviously going out to the communities. So we're making good progress on that front, I believe. On item 12, the water system report mentions a meeting we had on the BDCP with them. We have released a report on the ratepayer impact of the BDCP, both the conveyance components and things that would be financed through water bonds and other means. We find it generally affordable. So that report has been distributed, but it's also on the Office of Public Accountability's website at opa.lacity.org. And finally, on item 13, I'll be making two comments on two of the reports in item 13 at the time.
Thank you very much. Okay, we move to the consent agenda. I think we should do this in two separate motions or sets of motions in light of the notation on the approval of the minutes that only commissioners who attended the respective board meeting may move the minutes. I'll take the liberty, having been at both of the board meetings, of moving approval of the minutes of April 1st and April 15th. Well, let's do them separately. I move the approval of the minutes of April 1st. Is there a second?
Second.
Those in favor? Aye. Those are unanimous, the three who were there. I move approval of the minutes of the meeting of April 15th. Is there a second?
Second.
Those in favor?
Aye.
That's approved. Okay, the remainder of the consent calendar consists of items 7 and 8. Does anybody wish to remove either of those items?
8, please.
Is there a motion to approve agenda item 7? Second. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? That's approved. Item 8, utility infrastructure loan agreement number EDG 1384 with the Bowery Left LLC. Commissioner Fleming?
So I just would, I'd appreciate kind of a walkthrough of this. Someone explain why we're in this business, why this business qualifies, how it qualifies, from soup to nuts kind of on this one.
From soup to nuts. Good morning. My name is Keisha Washington. I'm the Interim Director of Economic Development for the department. Next to me is Balu Anyedika, who is the management analyst who actually processed the loan. Before we do that, let me talk a little bit about our loan program. Our loan program has been in existence for quite a few years. The intent of the loan program is to be able to provide funding for customers who are either installing infrastructure and/or water conservation or energy conservation measures. The way that we do it is we provide it at our cost of funds, and it's a way, again, to help those customers when they're facing increased costs or excessive costs to install new equipment, new infrastructure, and it's just a value-added thing that we add for our customers. Our loan program, this year we've done, I believe, 2 loans. Is that correct? We've done 2 loans. We are actually in the process of revising our loan program, looking at the marketing efforts, looking at how we interact with other governmental entities and private sector entities that offer some sort of funding related in the economic development arena, so that we're able to offer kind of seamless funding where it makes sense. But again, ours is only focused on energy and water infrastructure. For this particular loan, I'll let Balu take you through that.
Yes, for this one, this is a loan for Bowery Left. Is an organization that actually has they are into venue management, and they're trying to have a bit a venue that they have events where people come and have some events. So that's what the business is about.
So they're a nightclub, or they're a gathering venue of some sort. I mean, and how do we go about judging which kind of businesses come before us and would qualify for such a loan? This is a fairly significant loan. Who qualifies? Who doesn't qualify? What steps do we make them go through?
The ordinance that set up the program is very specific on how what kind of credit worthiness should be evaluated. And this is one program that is actually done through different groups within DWP. It comes in through economic development, which is our group, and then the ordinance vests the chief financial officer of DWP with the responsibility to ensure that they are credit worthy. So the FSO, the Financial Services Organization, would actually, there are accountants that are dedicated to reviewing the application, look at all that they have submitted. They look at their financial statements, what cash flow that they have, look at how they've been paying their bills, look at how much revenue we've gotten from them in the last 12 months. They evaluate all that. They do Dun & Bradstreet analysis to look at all the, how they are rated, even by independent rating agencies. And after all that have been put together, the Financial Services Organization will send us a memo and say that we have reviewed this loan. We recommend that you will go ahead and give it, that they will be able to pay us back.
If I could interrupt very quickly.
Yes.
I think their ability to pay the loan back, we got that part. What other criteria are established within the original ordinance? Is it a size of business? Is it, who was this program targeted at? Or do we just analyze all of them on their credit worthiness and then give them a loan? That's kind of the question.
It's actually targeted at all businesses, anyone who's interested, again, water conservation, energy efficiency, infrastructure, as well as solar. I should note that the program also offers loans for city family, and their loan terms and conditions are a little bit different than those offered to the rest of the individual customers. The criteria, again, is credit worthiness, and it's our customers.
So it's just commercial customers?
No, it's all customers.
Okay.
What's the size of our loan portfolio? How much money do we have outstanding in the loans, and what's the rate of default among the loans that we have?
We've only had one default since 2002, and that was way back. We have $5 million every year to loan out, and at this point, there are only about 700 and something thousand outstanding.
So this 700,000 plus is 400 if we did this today.
Yes.
That seems then fairly small. I mean, it seems like we're not making that many loans to folks. What's the number of loans that are out there?
I don't have the number. We have about 7 loans outstanding.
That are outstanding, and that's part of why we're looking at it. We've got a lot of room for improvement in terms of advertising the loans, both internally and externally, the availability of the loans. We've done approximately, 1 to 2 loans over the past 2 years, and in part because folks are not aware that it's available. The credit criteria is rigorous, I'll be honest with you there. So we have had folks make applications, but for whatever reasons, they're not able to proceed ahead.
And do we have some kind of test? So folks say we want to take out a loan in order to be more, to save water, to be more energy efficient. But do we chart that and we say, well, we're only going to give you a loan if you're going to achieve this amount of water efficiency or this amount of rate reduction in terms of your electricity use? Exactly,
because it's actually based on Title 24 requirements, and they are supposed to exceed it by 10%, which engineers look at. I didn't mention that energy efficiency also evaluates, that's a different group. So there are 3 groups that are involved. The loan comes in through us. We send to energy efficiency to look at energy efficiency standards, how they are meeting that. We send to financials to do the financial analysis. And at the end, everything comes to us. And the recommendation is make the loan or don't move forward. And if they qualify for rebates, the requirement is that we'll actually approve the amount less the amount of rebate that they are going to get. And we make that recommendation. We recommend for them to send in to apply for the rebates. And once the approval is given, we get that communication from energy efficiency. We now deduct the amount and we give them the amount of the loan and give them the amount of the rebates.
So you're looking at, if they're going to get $400,000 in a loan, you're also taking a look at how they're going to spend the $400,000? So
yes.
You're making sure that they're buying equipment that's right, that they're not overpaying for certain things, that they're taking advantage of rebates? Or
yes.
The ordinance also, I'm sorry to interrupt, the ordinance also requires that within 6 months they have to send us evidence that they actually spend the money on the projects that the detail that they submitted.
And finally, is there some reason that, I'm not even quite sure why we're in this business, but is there some reason why we don't just encourage folks to go to a commercial lender as opposed to coming through us?
To be quite honest with you, that's going to be part of our review. The ordinance obviously predates us, so I'm not sure what the original intent is. I think it was part of the package when they put together economic development. So we're looking at what it makes sense for us to be in the business of and where it doesn't make sense. And that's honestly going to be part of our review.
What's the timeline in your review?
I hope to have something back to management probably in the next 6 months. I want to do a scan, too, in terms of all of the other loan programs that are out there, who are the target audiences. Again, should we be in this business? And also because if we're focused on customers who are, in fact, credit worthy, there are other resources available out there.
Back in 2002, sir, there really wasn't anybody in this space.
Right.
And so I believe LA took more of a leadership role in an effort to try to create a funding stream for these enhancements. Since that time, there's any number of people out there, for a variety of state laws and that are in place. So I think there's quite a few in this space now. So it may be that this isn't a program we want to continue, or we want to narrow the target base, but we'll be back with that information.
Okay, so I'll leave it at the discretion of the general managers to when you all want to come back and make a presentation on this and the overarching kind of programs. Great, thanks very much.
Do we wish to have a motion today on this item?
I would offer, sir, that since the business itself has their expectations set, it's made it all the way through a variety of hoops, some of which are on fire, that you might in fact want to move forward with this one.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed?
Aye. No.
No. So, was it 4-1? Yes. I have to recuse myself from item 10 on the regular agenda, so Mr. Funderburk, would you preside? Thank you.
Next item is item 10, financial services standby bond purchase agreements with Bank of America and Citibank under resolution number 4877, agreements with Bank of America and Citibank.
This will be presented by Phil Leiber.
Okay. Thank you. The power system currently has outstanding about $7.5 billion in debt, of which about 19% is variable rate debt. That's a very cost-effective form of financing. Since 2002, we've paid just over 1.1% in interest costs on that debt. Variable rate debt obligations do require, in general, a form of bank liquidity called a standby bond purchase agreement. And what we have in front of you today is the opportunity to replace the existing standby bond purchase agreements with some more cost-effective arrangements. And in so doing, we will save $5.6 million in fees over a 3-year period versus the arrangement we have in place today. So we conducted a modified competitive process that had 9 firms respond. The 2 that we're proposing to go with were the lowest cost bidders. So this is really, in my view, a very easy decision. We go forward, we save quite a bit of money.
So moved.
Any discussion before? Any discussion?
I like the boatload of money part.
Motion?
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Thank you.
Motion passes.
And I want to commend you for always staying on top of how to leverage our money. So I think you do an excellent job in that fashion. So thank you.
Somebody want to?
Yeah, she did.
Yeah, Mr. Lovell.
She went to go get him.
We have to.
We can all vote against him while he's not here.
That's true.
I was informed that we have to, one of us has to make the motion. He can't make the motion for his own appointment.
One of us makes a motion for this without letting, is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Go ahead and continue. He's won't be back in for a minute.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, item 11, appointment of Mel Levine to serve ex officio on the Board of Administration of the Water and Power Employees Retirement Plan.
So moved.
Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Oh, I see.
Oh, so
Okay.
moved. Second.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And I serve in that position. I just want to commend him for taking the time to do this. This group meets twice a month. The meetings run long. So if you take everything into consideration that he's doing at these board meetings, aside from outside of this office to help the department, it's very, very generous of President Levine. So I thank him.
I echo that.
I hope he
Motion
didn't hear
passes.
that. Just by way of background, too, this particular board has had significant problems making quorum, which is why the president and the Board of Water and Power Commissioners has a seat, a specific seat for a commissioner on that organization. So the meetings have not been anywhere near as frequent because they haven't been able to make the threshold of attendance. So we certainly appreciate it.
We voted for that. Yeah, we did. Next item on the agenda. Barbara, we voted on that, didn't we?
Yes, for number 11, you got that one. Yeah.
Next item on the agenda, item 12, filed items. Monthly report. Mr. McDaniel.
It's just a report for file. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Commissioners? Item 13, management reports.
Thank you, sir. We're going to start today. Our first presentation will be on the feed-in tariff program, also known as the FIT.
Thank you.
So, Commissioners, you'll recall we're offering the feed-in tariff program 20 megawatt increments, and the commitment is we would come back about a month before each of the next offerings and give you a status update on what's going on as well. The Commission asked us to put some effort into coordinating with the Ratepayer Advocate's Office and look at this next feed-in tariff offering and look at the pricing and how we might structure it. So I'm going to ask Mike Webster and An Wood to come up, and they're going to go through a presentation on the current activity and respond to some of the questions that were asked previously by this board.
So I believe there's many speaker cards, so
Yes.
is it the pleasure of the board to hear the presentation first or address the public comments?
Yeah, comments first.
Okay. The first speaker, and please remember to limit yourself to 2 minutes. The first speaker is Tom Picard.
Good morning. I'm Tom Picard. I'm the Executive Vice President of Solar Provider Group. Solar Provider Group is a fully integrated solar developer and construction company based in Toronto, where they have been working on a feed-in tariff program for the Ontario Hydro now for a number of years, and have developed a level of expertise in feed-in tariff programs. Through that program, we have an office here in LA that was opened two years ago. We have a very large feed-in tariff pipeline. Projects that we are currently looking to move forward on are mixed throughout the city of Los Angeles, including this San Fernando Valley. We're working with local workforce developers, including Empower America, when we move into a construction phase for our construction crews, looking at developing our team through those programs. And I also met last week with our head office. We manufacture a racking product to bring that product into construction, into manufacturing locally here in Los Angeles, so that when we move forward on construction, once again, we'll be bringing in a further job opportunities through production of that product line here locally. I'm here on behalf of the Feed-in Tariff program, and I'm supporting the recommendations made by groups such as Los Angeles Business Council on this very important initiative, and further developing the program, further growing the program, and making sure that it's a very big success, not just for the utility, but for the city of Los Angeles. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, the next speaker is Sumi Parekh.
Hello, my name is Sumi Parekh, and on behalf of the Los Angeles Business Council, which represents over 300 members from various industry sectors, I would like to express my support for the FIT program. I would first like to take this opportunity to once again commend the DW FIT team, including Mike Webster, An Wood, Peter Liang, Yaman Nani, and Christian Krupa, for their hard work on the implementation and continuation of this program. Several of our members, solar developers that we work with especially, are appreciative of LADWP's supportive posture during the application phase, as well as during the site visit and interconnection study phase. So LADWP staff's effort was critical in accelerating these early stages of the application process, and we thank them for that. Back in February, the LABC Institute and the UCLA Luskin Center for Innovation released a comprehensive program evaluation of the FIT. The LAWP has already started to implement several of these key recommendations from the report, specifically establishing a cure rate and hiring more staff, and we applaud the FIT team for taking the appropriate measures to streamline this application process. We recently released another report with USC and UCLA sharing Solar's promise, harnessing LA's FIT to create jobs and build solar equity. According to the report, over 40% of the current Clean LA solar project applications are located in Los Angeles' solar equity hotspots, or neighborhoods with abundant rooftop space for solar installations and also in need of significant socioeconomic and environmental investment. The program is also reaping benefits for workforce provider groups targeting disadvantaged workers across the Los Angeles region, including Homeboy Industries, the LA Conservation Corp's Green Job Training Program, and Empower America's training program for veterans. It's very encouraging to see that the FIT applications are rolling in from across the city, particularly low-income neighborhoods where the environmental and economic benefits are so important. We would also like to address the price comparisons made in the February 18th board meeting. The FIT 100 and the REMAT and RAM differ drastically in the cost of solar installed, the cost of energy procured, and in benefits realized. These fundamental differences can make the exercise of comparing only each other's price a misleading one. In-basin rooftop solar offers a number of potential benefits that simply do not exist with out-of-basin solar. Significant growth of the program is absolutely achievable, and we have constantly been encouraged by Mayor Garcetti's expression of support in his budget message for expanding in-basin solar generation to 600 megawatts. The LADWP implemented the FIT program to stimulate a local solar rooftop market, and that's exactly what it's doing. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
The next speaker is Marabi Ayur.
My name is Mirabai Auer, and I'm a researcher at the USC Program for Environmental and Regional Equity. And I was actually an author on the study that Sumi just mentioned called Sharing Solar's Promise, which was recently released. And as she said, it looked at the workforce and economic development impacts of the FIT. And so we looked at not only where the projects were located, which is important, but if projects in those neighborhoods were actually connecting with the local workforce. And we found a number of really heartening examples of what we're calling kind of model solar equity projects. And those are projects that were connecting, kind of large and small, that were connecting with veterans through Empower America, through disadvantaged workers and at-risk youth through programs like ELASC, and then also through union workers through this project that's the Labor's Union Project on PICO. And it was encouraging to see that the projects were in those neighborhoods and connecting with workers. And we made a number of recommendations in our report, and I actually brought along a summary of the report and key findings for you today. But among the key recommendations we're suggesting is that to fully maximize the workforce benefits, that a scaled-up program would be helpful to have a stronger anchor, that we make a number of recommendations around the continued refinement of the application and lottery system. And then we also make a series of suggestions on ways in which the program can really explicitly connect more strongly with the workforce. And we have a few suggestions on ways to leverage both federal and state funds to do that. But overall, we think that the program is showing great promise, and that we think that all of the suggestions, refinements, and scaling up we suggest is completely achievable. So thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Okay, the next speaker is Michelle Kimman.
Good afternoon. Michelle Kidman with Environment California, which is a statewide citizen-funded environmental advocacy organization headquartered in LA. More than any other city in the country, LA can benefit from a robust rooftop solar market. Indeed, just last month, Environment California released a new report naming Los Angeles the #1 solar leader in the country, with more solar power installed than any other city in the country. This achievement, noted by the mayor in his State of the City address, did not happen by chance. It's the result of the commitment by the city and the LADWP board and staff to commit to a cleaner future. Without any doubt, it was the feed-in tariff program that elevated LA to its current #1 spot, so thank you very much. Research from the LABC and the NUCLA demonstrates that the 100-megawatt feed-in tariff program is on track to meet its considerable economic and sustainability goals by 2015, including creating more than 2,000 jobs, generating approximately $300 million in direct investments in the city, displacing as many as 2.7 million tons of greenhouse gases annually, and powering more than 21,000 homes. Furthermore, as Sumi mentioned, over 40% of the current program applications are in solar equity hotspots. And all of this at a price that is not only affordable, but is the lowest price among similarly designed urban rooftop feed-in tariff programs in the country. This is a shining start, but it's only the beginning. LA cannot afford to bask in the sunshine of its accomplishments, but must continue to build on these achievements. The staff, as well as the teams at the LABC Institute, UCLA, and USC, have identified a number of areas in which to improve the program as it continues. We encourage the board and staff to continue to strengthen this already quite successful program with an eye toward increasing the scale of the program to 600 megawatts as called for by the mayor and the Los Angeles Clean Energy Coalition. In so doing, you will create more jobs, spur more economic development, create cleaner air for Angelinos, and ensure that LA remains a top solar leader on the statewide, national, and international levels. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next speaker is Kent Minalt.
Good day. Yeah, I'm Kent Minot. I work with the as a volunteer with the LA Beyond Coal campaign of the Sierra Club, and I'm also speaking for the LA Clean Energy Coalition, on which I sit. LA DWP is a utility in transition. This report here, which previously mentioned, came out in February by the LA Business Council, and it has some FIT participants criticizing DWP for being too old school and not up to date in its electronic communications, causing delays in sending their interconnection estimates. Pretty serious. Others, though, praise the utility for being prompt and responsive and setting up site visits in a timely manner. I think the FIT is putting pressure on the utility to open up and move away from its old unresponsive corporate model. Keep moving in that direction. And in fact, in this new report recently mentioned, the LA Business Council states a set of values that it had in mind with this program: social equity, environmental leadership, broadly shared prosperity. That's where we're headed. We Angelinos feel proud of our town when we see the solar panels popping up around us. We want our city to be an environmental leader, and that's also where we're headed. We already have more installed solar than any other American city, but when you look at per capita solar, we're a little bit farther down the list. 40% of FIT panels are in high-need areas where a lot of new workers are starting careers in solar installation. The FIT is creating broadly shared prosperity. So a big green light for an expanded FIT. Solar installers need to know they have a stable business environment in which to grow their industry. And let's show the world how this city responds to the climate challenge. Let's get to the top of the per capita list as well. And finally, we're turning around LA's history of racism. The people who are going to save the planet and respond to the climate challenge are largely young, minority, and poor. They're doing the energy efficiency upgrades right now, and they're putting up solar panels around town. Many more of them are already trained up and ready to go. Let's expand the FIT to 600 megawatts and put those people to work. Thank you.
Thank you.
And the next speaker is Sarah Neff. And after that will be Rishi Kapadia.
Hi, my name is Sarah Neff. I'm the Vice President of Sustainability at Kilroy Realty Corporation. We are a commercial office owner in Los Angeles, and we have about half a megawatt signed up in the LA feed-in tariff. And I'm here to express my support for the feed-in tariff, and thank you for approving the third tranche. I do believe that significant growth of this program is absolutely achievable, and I want to talk about some great things that have been happening in some areas for improvement. We love the feed-in tariff. Kilroy Realty Corporation is an office REIT. It means because of our tax structure, we cannot take advantage of solar incentives, so this is the first program we've ever been able to take advantage of, which is fantastic. Also, I want to commend coordination with the Department of Building and Safety, which now no longer requires rooftop penetrations for solar, which is very terrifying for commercial building owners who are very afraid of leaks.
and I want to make some suggestions. The interconnection studies are still taking a very, very long time to happen. I'm waiting 9 months and more for some of these, and so that really needs to get sped up. Projects under development, which is to say not existing roofs, need a longer window because the roofs don't exist yet, and so the 18-month cutoff doesn't really work for us, and it's creating some problems where we would have to wait for subsequent lotteries, which makes the price go down for us. In addition, I'd like to say that there's still Department of Building and Safety barriers, such as requiring architect signatures for buildings built over 30 years ago, where the architect is probably not still working. But overall, the program has been really fantastic, and we really look forward to building out all of our projects in the next year and a half. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next speaker is Rishi Kapadia.
Good afternoon. My name is Rishi Kapadia. I'm here representing TRK Development. We are a private commercial real estate developer in Los Angeles County, specializing in large industrial and office properties. We applied for one of our warehouses in the first tranche and were chosen in that lottery. Subsequently, we installed and interconnected our first rooftop system, which was 500 kilowatts. The feed-in tariff could revolutionize real estate development in Los Angeles. The largest non-governmental ratepayers in Los Angeles are real estate investment trusts, followed by large private landowners and development companies. The feed-in tariff is the only program in a large metropolitan area in the United States that these companies have a chance to participate in. Installing a rooftop system directly causes the buildings to undergo a large renovation. Throughout this process, local contractors, designers, and other workmen are hired for the installation process. Also, many of the parts of these systems are sourced and bought locally. The combination of these factors increases employment in the area and has a direct effect on vacancy as well. The income and tax savings from these systems allows landlords to charge a lower and more reasonable rent, thereby benefiting tenants as well. Accordingly, the correct pricing signals need to be given to the market. Installing these systems requires large amounts of upfront capital. Different production and financial projections need to be analyzed to determine the feasibility of these projects. If the rate in which the utility company is buying power for is too low, projects will not get built. And that is exactly what's happening with the other utility companies, local utility companies such as SoCal Edison and PG&E. Today, in those utilities feed-in tariffs, subscription rates are low, and the time between submission and acceptance of applications is too long, making the entire process cumbersome. Real estate companies have stepped away from participating in these feed-in tariff programs because they require a consistent and certain pricing structure to make these investments. We fully support to hold the existing prices as they are for the feed-in tariff program in order to adequately incentivize the private sector to participate in this program and help the DWP create something truly fantastic here in Los Angeles. Thank you.
Okay, the next speaker is Laura Mack, and then after that, Gina Rosen.
Good afternoon. I sit on the board of the Pacific Palisades Community Council, and I would like to speak to community scale support for the feed-in tariff program, as well as broader ratepayer support. So recently, approximately, or at least 14 neighborhood councils across more than half of the council districts have considered motions in support of an expanded feed-in tariff program, and that's up to 1,200 megawatts actually. Of those, 8 have passed the motion with nearly unanimous support by their board members, and another 5 are actively considering the motion or have passed it in committee. And then I think this support echoes a larger support by ratepayers as a whole. And you may be aware of a 2012 study that was done of 400 ratepayers in the city across the ideological spectrum, which found that voters overwhelmingly view local rooftop solar favorably, and 3/4 want LADWP to do more to expand its use. And notably, a majority, 57%, are willing to pay at least $1 more each month to increase the amount of electricity that Los Angeles gets from rooftop solar. I believe that according to DWP analysis, the actual amount right now is 2 to 4 cents per month additional in the electricity bills. So quite a big gap there. And furthermore, 4 and 5 voters, or 81%, support LADWP increasing local solar in its territory to 1,200 megawatts by 2020, which fits very nicely with a FIT expansion goal. So given clear support by neighborhood councils and ratepayers at large, I would urge your support for expansion at this time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, the next speaker is Gina Rosen, and after that, Sarita Ruri.
Hello, my name is Gina Goodhill-Rosen, and I'm speaking on behalf of Global Green USA, a national environmental nonprofit organization dedicated to greening the built environment and finding smart solutions for climate change. Thank you to the board for giving us this opportunity to speak. And then I'm also part of the Los Angeles Clean Energy Coalition, which Kent from Sierra Club mentioned as well. Global Green's been a leader in advocating for the feed-in tariff program since 2005. In-basin rooftop solar programs, such as a FIT, spur local development, grow the local workforce, and help the environment without having to develop on undeveloped land. The FIT represents a real opportunity to lessen our dependence on polluting fossil fuels and to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, to create local jobs, and to really allow LA to be a leader in this field. We are very pleased to say that so far the program has succeeded in meeting these goals and more. The program has been oversubscribed during both of the first two tranches. The report that many people have already mentioned points out that on top of that, 43% of the FIT project applications, as we've discussed, have been in LA's solar equity hotspots, so areas that both have high solar potential but also have high economic need. The program is also open to multifamily apartment buildings, a sector that is often forgotten about in a lot of our energy efficiency programs, but it has a very clear need for these programs. So for these reasons and more, Global Green strongly supports expanding the current program to 600 megawatts, as similarly supported by Mayor Garcetti in his most recent budget. We also second the recommendations in the report that's been mentioned. These include adding solar equity incentives to the FIT program to encourage job creation for disadvantaged workers, expediting the permitting process for businesses in low-income areas so they can more easily access the program, and giving priority to smaller projects in dense urban neighborhoods that offer an economic advantage to communities in need. Overall, we're very pleased by the program's successes to date and are fully supportive of seeing it expanded to 600 megawatts. Thank you.
Thank you.
And the next speaker is Sarita Puri.
Hi, I'm Sarita Puri, and on behalf of Permis City, I'd like to express my support for the feed-in tariff program. I'd first like to thank LADWP Board of Commissioners for approving the third tranche at the February 18th board meeting. I should note that I've noticed a marked improvement in how the program is running. For example, for the second tranche, we didn't get contacted for DWP interconnection site visits and walkthroughs for almost 6 months. And for the most recent round, we scheduled and completed our site walks less than a month after the lottery. This is very commendable and highly encouraging. As you may know, Permis City is currently building the largest rooftop solar installation in LA, and we believe California, at Forever 21's headquarters in downtown LA. The installation is significant not only because of its sheer size at over 5 megawatts, but because it's the first installation in LA that utilizes both the solar incentive net metering program and the FIT program. Perhaps most noteworthy is that our mounting technology, Solar Strap, which was invented and is being manufactured in LA, is being unveiled at this site. And it's the only design that is approved in LA that does not use penetration or ballast. It was also approved for 1,000-volt wiring, which decreases costs even further. LADWP, through the FIT and SIP programs, created an opportunity for Permis City to innovate. We responded to the market by creating a technology that reduces installation costs by 5%, and we responded to property owners by inventing a design that actually strengthens their roofs instead of introducing vulnerability and risk. And because we are influenced by the fact that LA is our home, we took our design one step further and created a technology that can prevent roofs from separating and collapsing in earthquakes. The competitive pricing of the FIT, both for the next two upcoming rounds of the FIT 100 and the Beacon FIT 50, requires a low-cost solution. And with the volume that the FIT 100 and FIT 50 create, and hopefully soon a 600 megawatt program, we will be able to further refine our technology and bring down costs. Ultimately, success in LA with our solar strap technology will help us launch our product in other cities across the U.S. and the world. We greatly appreciate your continued support of the FIT program and making LA a cleaner and greener city. Thank you.
Thank you.
That was the last speaker card.
Okay. Who is going to do the presentation? Aha.
Good afternoon, Mike Webster. I'm Assistant Director of Power System Planning and Development. And to my left is An Wood, who manages all of our solar programs. And so the purpose of today is, one, we have had a collaborative discussion with the Ratepayer Advocate Office. So we want to point out areas there in which we agree. We want to point out areas which we do not agree. And An will be having that discussion with you in a moment. We also want to review what happened with the third tranche and sort of the success and the volume and activities related to the third tranche. And we also wanted to look at concepts for an expanded feed-in tariff. And this is really just to start the discussion with the board as we move forward. So let's be clear what FIT is. FIT is where a solar provider connects directly into DWP lines. So the solar generation is metered, it is brought into DWP's system, and then we redistribute that solar or renewable energy throughout all of our ratepayers. This is different than a net meter system where the solar is actually behind the customer's meter, making that meter run backwards, right, and offsetting their electrical load. So today we're talking about the FIT program. Under SB 1332, we were required to offer a 75 megawatt program. We've offered a 150 megawatt program. 100 megawatts is the set price program. We call that the FIT 100. And soon you'll be seeing the bundled program, which is the FIT 50. We hope within the next few board meetings you'll be able to see that and approve that moving forward. That's a total of 150 megawatts. What I wanted to just do here is just point out some of the history. I'm not going to go through all the details on this slide. It's really there for reference. But the discussion on a feed-in tariff program started in earnest in 2010 and really was a 18 months to 2-year process of working with the industry, working with policymakers. It was a significant dialogue with many, many, many public meetings to get to the point where we could actually launch the program in early 2012. So after 4 years of development, again, it's a process of getting the program launched. We are now starting to reap some of those benefits. We have 700 kilowatts installed, but we have many, many more in the process of being installed. So we expect this number to increase exponentially over the next 12 months to 18 months. And because we had so much dialogue and the community was so focused on developing a program that they thought might work, we're very careful about program changes because of that transparency, so that the business investments that they've made are fully vetted and they know what's coming so they can adjust accordingly. Now, these are not just words. These policies were fully vetted with the board and the community and our stakeholders, and I just want to review with you because we believe that these are our guiding principles even with an expanded program, is that reliability was absolutely critical in the program that we launched. We didn't want any sort of renewable program to impact grid reliability, which is why we go through an engineering process to make sure the system is protected. That's our core principle. The second core principle is we wanted to depend on this, is that we wanted a program that wasn't in name only, but a program that we could actually get development and count on for meeting our RPS requirements. So that's why the dependability was so important to us when we launched the program. We also wanted to make sure the program was transparent in the sense that people that were coming into the Los Angeles area to participate in feed-in tariff knew what was coming and could make investments based on that longer-term view moving forward. Sustainability was really about pacing for us. We didn't want a boom and bust cycle where we get a lot of applications and then nothing happens. We really wanted to pace that out. not only for engineering staff, but also that we have a kind of a solid growth in the marketplace. And lastly, we wanted to make sure it was as cost effective as possible, and when the policymakers approved the feed-in tariff, it was done so in light of the fact that if there were increased costs associated with the program, that it resulted in other policy benefits, economic investments, bringing people to Los Angeles, local manufacturing moving forward. So we wanted to keep the costs as low as possible, but still meet all the other principles that we had moving forward. So I'd like An Wood now to talk a little bit about the third tranche moving forward.
Yes, good afternoon, Commissioners. So the third 20 megawatt allocation at 15 cents per kilowatt hour was offered in March. And the result of that is we did see a lot of applications for the larger projects. We received 43 megawatts in applications. However, for the smaller projects, we only received a half of a megawatt. And how we carved out the 20 megawatts, we saved 4 megawatts for the small. And small are the systems ranging in size from 30 kilowatt to 150 kilowatt. So I also like to mention what we've learned so far with our demonstration program, our first, second, and third allocation. At the 17 and 16 cents, we are seeing a high rate of cancellation in the applications, 31%. And why is that? The interconnection costs, when we quote them, they're averages. So obviously the ones that are in the higher range have fallen out because as the interconnection costs are higher, they have to reduce their offerings for the sites that where they pay out the leases. And when that doesn't work out, then the site owners would like to drop out. And as the prior slide showed, applications for small projects aren't coming in the way we wanted. They're still available, and we still have several months left for them to apply during the third allocation. And the development is taking much longer for the customers because they are seeing delays in their lease paperwork, their permitting are seeing some issues, and their financing is not going as easily as they thought. So until we actually have these projects installed, we will not know its effectiveness. We believe it will be because we do see a lot of activities. So as Mike mentioned, in the next few months, we will see a lot of installations. So when the board approved the FIT 100 program on January last year, we paced the program in 5 20 megawatt blocks, starting at 17 cents and dropping a penny for each allocation. The board directed the staff to come to you 30 days prior to the next allocation so you can review the status of the program and reset the pricing if necessary. So we are here much earlier than 30 days to provide status, and we would like to launch the fourth tranche in August of 2014. And this is a time where the board can direct us to reset the price or move as planned. You know what? I'm sorry. I think the slides, we were missing some slides.
These slides are coming. That's good.
So also at the last board meeting on FIT, you had directed for us to meet with the RPA and go over his comments on the current pricing. So the FIT pricing is far above current market conditions, and it lacks competition. and we can get about 2/3 more solar for the same cost that we're spending on the FIT 100 right now, and that PG&E and SCE are oversubscribed on their REMAP program at 8.9 cents per kilowatt hour. And the ratepayer advocate recommends for us to halt the program and offer it at 8.5 cents. So price indications right now do show that the REMAP program have successfully filled in their subscription at 8.9 cents, and they're at the 7.7 cents for solar projects. And REMAT is offered for the IOUs such as Edison, PG&E, and San Diego Gas and Electric. We also see price indications with our own projects for the large-scale projects, and these are projects over 100 megawatts. In 2012, they were at 9 cents per kilowatt hour, and the RFPs that we are reviewing right now, they are in the 6 cents range. So we are aware of the pricing for the large scale. And for the FIT 50 component of our program, we are seeing pricing on the average for the in-basin project at 12.5 cents. Not only do we look at other solar programs, we compare ourselves with similar type programs. And as you can see on this chart, we are the lowest pricing for in-basin solar rooftops. And on this chart here, most of the ones in the higher ranges do see actual installations in place, with the exception of Palo Alto. Palo Alto is at 16.5 cents, and they still do not have any subscription. So what's our response to the RPA's comments so far? We'd like to recognize that REMAT and FIT 100 is very different. The REMAT projects, we see them on the queue, and on average, they're about 1.5 megawatts. And most of these projects are the ground-mounted projects in large warehouse spaces, so they get the economies of scale. LA, our projects are in the average range of 380 kilowatts, and mostly are rooftop installations and just about 14 projects that are ground mounts on our list of active projects. And so we do not see the FIT 100 that lucrative because we are seeing dropout rates of 31% and only 5 small projects submitted in the third allocation at 15 cents. And it's not working so far, but time will tell in a few months. So how should we proceed from here? With the fourth allocation, we believe 14 cents is a fair price for the projects. The small projects, the way we designed it, we do not drop the price until 4 megawatts is subscribed. And that way, the small market is representative in our feed-in tariff program. And we feel that paying the REMAT pricing will not result in any projects being built. There are applications, but as Mike mentioned, the true mark is what gets installed. And we heard loud and clear from the business communities and the stakeholders with our outreach that we did for several years that a stable market is crucial for the feed-in tariff program. We've met with other countries who have experienced the boom and bust cycles, and we do not want it here for the LA area. And staff now will continue to implement the program as approved unless the board directs us to do otherwise. So I'd like to see if you have any questions before we start talking about the expansion of FIT.
I'd like to stay.
I saw Commissioner Broad first because I was looking in this direction.
Yes.
I hear the terminology, I'm trying to find my notes here, hotspots, and if you could just tell me a little bit more about how you're defining the hotspots and the sites that you choose.
Okay, so the hotspots that were referred to in public testimony, that came out of USC and UCLA study. And what they did is they took our map that shows the zip codes and the location of the solar projects, and then they mapped that to lower income communities. And so I don't know if you have that study in front of you, but they have a beautiful map that kind of lays out where our projects are and these economic hotspots. So we can't give you more information. That's a question that we would have to ask UCLA, USC to kind of define that in the report, and we'd be happy to consolidate the information and send it to the board. Now, how we pick projects, it's very simple. It is first come, first serve. So when they come in the door, they get that project first, and we just go down the list. However, what we didn't want to do is, unlike a concert where we would have people wrapping around the building to be the first ones in and camping out, hiring 16 and 18-year-olds, to do that, and they would, is that what we did is we said in the first week, we're just going to do a lottery. So when you come in the first week, if it's oversubscribed, then we do a lottery. If not, we just go ahead and take them in order. And that's how we pick. It's a very fair process to all.
Okay, well, what it says here from the Los Angeles Business Council, the projects are located in areas with high solar potential as well as high economic need. And so they are, as I look at these maps, really focused on a particular area of the San Fernando Valley and downtown Los Angeles and South LA. The other thing is on your, I don't know, page 5 of your presentation, loss of site control. So what is that? And does that relate to the where the sites are?
No, loss
or
of
is
site
that something
control.
different?
There's many different business structures with a feed-in tariff program. A lot of these, they could be vertically integrated, or a developer could go to a property owner and lease the space, mostly rooftops, and pay them a fee for it. And so the pricing has to be correct for it to work out, where the owners of the property shall be the last one to sign the lease or not. So when we review the applications, it's just an intention that they will have a contract in place. But once they get a signal from us on the interconnection costs and the fact that the project will move forward, this is when they actually sign the lease agreement between the developer and the property owner.
Well, what determines the high solar potential? I can see high economic need just by where these are located and the density in certain areas. But what is the high solar potential?
High solar potential, and again, that's not our report, but what it means is a lot of times the roof may not be tilting the correct way, or there's shading issues. So there are areas where there aren't too many trees, so you get a lot of sunshine, and the roofs are flat, so you can tilt it any way you want, and it's large enough where you can face the panels in a perfect condition to maximize your solar generation.
Okay, and so that's what you're finding in downtown LA and South LA?
The project applicants have found that.
Found that?
Yes.
All right. But then in the San Fernando Valley, what we heard this morning in the North San Fernando Valley where it's a lot of open space.
Yes.
Okay, how does that, that's high solar potential, why? Because it's open?
Since it is open space, it is much cheaper to install these solar installations versus climbing a roof to install them.
Yeah, let's pause just a second, though, because the definition is strictly related to rooftop potential, 30 kilowatt to 3 megawatt from the UCLA study. So just from the words that we're reading, they did not look at ground mount space as being high solar potential.
Mike, could you perhaps, the issue is where does DWP, our current policy, stand with respect to the site location? And if I understood correctly, we're basically agnostic from that standpoint.
Yes. SB 1332 actually is a bill for local renewable development. It is agnostic really even to solar. So our feed-in tariff program is for solar and any other renewables program in Los Angeles. So that's number one. Number two, it is a first-come, first-serve. So we don't approve projects except in the sense that are they going to interconnect safely and reliably to our system. However, when they move forward, they have to show certain things to us. One is they have to show that they're fully permitted. So they have gone through the appropriate processes through the Planning Commission, Building and Safety. They have all the appropriate permits, and they can actually demonstrate site control. Only once they go through that gate will we allow that project to proceed.
All right, when you say first come, first serve, and you talk about an applicant, you mean a company who's going to build these?
It could be a company that builds it. It could be also a customer that builds it.
All right, so where does the community fit in? Where does the neighborhood and the surrounding residential area, where do they fit in the process?
Right, so they're going to fit into the process through the Planning Commission as they go through the permitting process to move forward. So it is something, and that's why you heard today a little bit about, the appeal and the community discussion that was had, but that is a Planning Commission function to go through that.
All right, so here's where my confusion is. If it's a land use issue and going through that process, then why does our planning committee, planning department of the city say they have no power in any of this, that it's exempt from them?
Well, I believe our board president said that the Solar Rights Act is something that he's very familiar with and will be working through that process with the planning committee. LADWP is not experts in that area, and certainly staff is not.
Yeah, because what I'm hearing from Fuentes is that it's exempt from the planning department by right. That's in quotes. So that's where the whole thing sounds a little counterintuitive to me.
I'm not entirely clear on how it's being applied.
Yeah.
I am entirely clear on what was intended.
Okay.
So that is something that I'll discuss with Councilman Fuentes. Commissioner Noonan.
Okay. Thank you. So I didn't have notes, but I just made some. So I'll go ahead and just read my own notes so I feel like I'm encompassing the message that I want to share with you and to the public. I've been very impressed with how many people in the community, how many nonprofits have asked to meet with me because this is such an important program. That being said, I want to commend the department for working with our local universities, which are internationally acclaimed, reputable, that have done research, and that I feel give an honest gauge as to what the department's doing versus other utilities. And all of the feedback that I've received during these meetings has been that we are above par. So I commend the department, and I think we need to continue with this program. And I think it's very important to continue with these partnerships for the greater end goal. And I suggest making these objective studies and research available to the public via our website. I think it'd be very helpful if the public has a link to the UCLA studies, the USC studies, Power LA. because it's important that the public feels that they're getting an honest, objective opinion about what's happening nationally and internationally and how we're faring.
I did have a couple of questions.
Mr. Funderburg.
Yes. So I've been busy on some other things with LADWP, but just trying to. Is this the Los Angeles Business Council is a separate organization with other companies that's separate from DWP, correct?
That is correct.
And does DWP or does LABC pay UCLA and USC for these studies?
DWP does not pay for UCLA or USC for these studies. We didn't commission them. We weren't even part of setting up the studies.
Who paid for the UCLA and USC studies? Do you know? I'm just curious.
I can only speculate, but I'm not going to do that here.
Okay. No, I mean, I think that it's great that we have these names associated. I just want to make sure things are free of bias by making sure that the funding for those studies is free of bias, so to say. I'm very supportive of this. I did have a couple of questions though on this hotspot issue. It sounds like it's intended to benefit communities that have been disadvantaged or whatever, and I saw the criteria in the studies. Are they not really benefiting the landowners, or are the landowners nonprofits that are actually part of the community, or are the landowners people who are landowners who are in the business of owning land and buildings? So I was just curious about that.
Well, naturally, when the projects are built in disadvantaged communities, it's easier for them to do work right in their communities. And so that was another reason why we had a feed-in tariff program, because the existing solar incentive program tended to have more affluent communities installing solar. So the other communities wanted to see solar in their area also.
But don't the jobs dry up after the construction's over?
For that particular project. And so that's why there's, the talk about expanding feed-in tariff.
Well, one of the things that I'd like to see if it could be addressed, and the Global Green representative taught, if we're going to do equity, let's do it right, and let's benchmark it. I mean, there are ways that nonprofits benchmark and do things like that. A lot of this stuff sounds really good, but it doesn't mean anything if there's not performance. You can talk about being in the neighborhood. You hire 50 people and then they lose their job in a year after the installs. What's happening to those people? Did we really benefit the community, or did we just provide a short-term adrenaline boost to them?
Commissioner, if I could. So some of these hotspots in the communities are related to where we have more industrial type buildings, and we had more industrial type of customers historically. Some of those have certainly converted into more commercial and warehousing type activities, but they tend to be in some of our lower income communities. But they also have some of the largest roof space. So they become hotspots too, because you can build larger systems, and obviously you get a little better economics out of it. For all of those property owners, though, if they are the beneficiary of having a system installed on their roofs, they have a new rental income. So that directly is going to tie to the success of potentially that building owner or the function of that building, because now there's a new revenue stream coming in directly through the DWP payments to the developer. The other thing is they will have some level of ongoing maintenance. Solar isn't a high maintenance activity, but it does require some maintenance, and those will continue on, and it'll be a cottage industry in itself within the city of Los Angeles long term and within those communities. So there is some long term benefits, but you're right. the construction jobs are the bulk of the local job activity that will occur, and that's just when you're building. Ongoing, there will be some revenue being returned right into those communities due to the landowners, and then some of the maintenance.
Thank you, Mr. I really appreciate that. And what I want to just, I'm supportive of this. I would support a little fine-tuning just to make sure that the dollars that were being used to subsidize these projects are staying in the communities as much as possible. We still have to recognize risk that people are taking. And I like the idea that the lady from Global Green advanced, if that could possibly be taken into consideration. But thanks for pushing ahead with this. I think it's important, and thanks for bringing to communities that are overlooked. I represent a lot of companies that are companies in these communities, and economic activity is beneficial. So really appreciate it.
So you've also asked what would an expanded program look like, and I'm not going to take a lot of time on this, but I do want to highlight a few things. Is that this is really going to be the first, I think, of several discussions with the board as we try to think through what an expanded program might look like. But some of the things we need to think through is how much expanded fit should we offer? The mayor's goal is 600 megawatts, but what is the right amount for DWP to offer and when, and the timing of that? What are some of the potential concerns? And what are some of the policy considerations? It might be an opportunity for an expanded program to adopt additional policies in that program and nuances. And what should the proposed schedule be moving forward? So what I wanted to do here is just show you, this is just the solar component as part of our integrated resource plan. Now what we did is we just picked a number right here of 300 megawatts as a place to start. Now we put a little bit of thought into that. We said, well, look at this year, 2014, low hydro. We lost 2% of our RPS, just the hydro alone. So if we were to look at a feed-in tariff as a way to sort of hedge against some environmental conditions that all renewable portfolios are part of, what would number make sense? And so a 300 megawatt number might represent 2.7% of our renewables. So it might be a good hedge, a place to start. And then what we did is we said, if we were to do a 300 megawatt program, how much local solar do we have? And so if you look at this graph right here, you'll see we have about 760 megawatts of local solar with a 300 megawatt program. And then we're also looking at a community solar program, again, to hit some other policy elements. We'll talk about that in the future. And the purple area at the top is our large-scale utility. Now, the local represents about 40 to 50% of our solar portfolio. It is a significant investment locally in the community with our solar program. Now, one of the strategies we think about when we're designing a renewables program, we look at where to place our renewables so we get this geographic diversity. And solar climatic zones change if you're about 200 miles apart. And so we think about projects that are spread throughout our system so that when it's cloudy in one area, it's not cloudy in another area. So this represents approximately a 750 megawatt plant located in one geographic area. So our planners, our dispatchers are going to need to learn to deal with that and have the right tools in place to do that. The other thing that I think is significant is that with a program like this, 20% of our renewables, 20% of our 33% is local. So we are investing locally as we move forward. So one of the things that we think about when we're looking at, and I don't want to get very technical on this, but as engineers, we are concerned about the grid and how it works, and we need to think through the problems, but then make sure that our solutions keep pace with programs that we deploy. And so the nice blue curve at the top, we love that in certain situations because we can plan for it, but solar has the red curve in the middle, which creates voltage instability. We also, in our program, we actually are getting to the point where we could have overgeneration on Sundays in April, Sundays in March, and we have an overgeneration situation, we have to deal with that. Cost and pricing is important, and certainly we need to have the staff to roll out the program. And so to give you an idea of how our system is set up, and one of the things our engineers think a lot about is, if you just move back just a little, is that our system is designed to flow from the left to the right. And so it goes through transformers, and we have all of our voltage control equipment, and then it serves our customers. So all of our system is designed to stabilize our voltage as the energy flows to our customers. But when we start to put solar with our customers, the voltage stability is being introduced behind all the equipment. So when we think about this, we need to think about ways that we can mitigate that voltage instability moving forward. It's just an engineering issue, and it's something we have to plan through and make sure that the costs are addressed as we move forward. So voltage instability is problematic for equipment. In extreme cases, we can have loss of service, etc. And again, it's a matter from an engineering perspective. We think that an expanded program should follow a learn and grow model. Deploy, learn from it, deploy more, learn from it, and that way it's a paced program. And you'll hear me say that several times this afternoon. Overgeneration is another issue that the entire utility industry is looking at. The state of California just commissioned, the utilities in the state of California just commissioned a study to really look at higher levels of renewables. This hatched area right here is what's called overgeneration. Everything else in the system's back down the minimum. You can't do anything with your system whatsoever, but your load curve is this black line. Something has to happen with that energy. So you can store it, and there's a cost of storage. You can sell it, and quite frankly, if everyone in California is in the same place, you may be selling it at a negative price. You can decide, you know what, we're just going to shut it off, and we're not going to take the renewables during those hours. All of those have a cost that we need to think through as we move forward. And we're looking very closely at what that level is. It may be 1,600 megawatts. It could be, maybe we can stretch that, maybe we can get to 1,900 megawatts of solar before we have significant overgeneration issues. This curve right here, though, reflects the cost. Is that we're continuing the model, but really I just want to point out that there's an inflection point where our system can absorb solar, and we're going to have some overgeneration here or there. But we get to the point where there is so much overgeneration that the costs go up exponentially, and this is really a smooth curve up. So when we're thinking about our integrated resource plan and how much solar, what we need to do is try to find that inflection point, and that would serve as a place where we may want to say, this is a place we want to kind of stop, hold, and reassess before we move over into higher levels of solar penetration. There's many technologies, and then again, the technologies have to be deployed at pace with the programs that we deploy. And so some of the pricing and cost concerns is that we believe, moving forward, that a dynamic pricing model is appropriate. Is that something that balances supply and demand in some way. Now, the state has REMAT. There's a model there we can look towards for guidance. It's not a model we have to copy. But we think that something's a little bit more flexible makes sense, and something that may be flexible for both large scale and small scale moving forward. So we think that's a policy consideration, that something that's dynamic pricing makes sense to propose. We also think that the competitive prices that we get out of the Beacon bundled, which you will see in a few weeks, is that will give us an indicator of what a competitive piece might bring to the city of Los Angeles and a starting point for maybe an expanded program. And of course, for all of our policymakers, what we have to do is we have to address is the economic development activity related to a feed-in tariff program. Is it warranted with the higher potential costs associated with that program? And there are other benefits besides economic development, because when you do have local solar, you do have the ability to not stress your transmission grid, and it leaves your transmission grid room to put other renewables down the road, which we think we're going to get there. So that's the balance this board and other policymakers will have to make when they're balancing the cost of the program with the benefits of the program. The other area, and this is an important discussion, is that just 3 or 4 weeks ago, we finally have staffing that is more consistent with what we asked for when we approved the feed-in tariff program a year and a half ago. That we asked for 3 additional staff to manage the administration. This is the queue. They come in, they have to be processed. Engineering has to do the interconnection studies, and you still have heard some long delays there, and we do have 4 new engineers in engineering now. Construction is when we actually build all those connections to our customers. And then lastly, payment and processing. So construction and payments are soon to come. But if we're going to expand the program, we have Fit 50 right upon our heels. We need 4 in administration, 6 in engineering. We know we're going to need about 33 in construction. Construction does have more ability to staff and destaff, and payment processing. So moving forward, staffing has to be part of the equation. And so in summary, we're going to think through the operational constraints. We're going to come up with solutions. We're going to cost those solutions as we go through the Integrated Resource Plan for 2014 this year. We believe that we need a consistent transition from what we have today. So as this program, the Fit 100, starts to roll off next year, we think that the program, an expanded program, should pick up next year. So around August is when we should be launching an expanded program, so we have a long-term sustainable pace moving forward. We'll talk more about the pricing. Again, I think staff plans to propose a dynamic pricing. And we also plan on thinking about an expanded feed-in tariff program as a contingency measure, that safety valve to protect against deficiencies in renewables. I think that's an important concept as we move forward. And I think we heard a lot about economic development activities and social equity. Should we build those types of policies into the program moving forward where we can get a little bit more clarity and a little better linkage between local economic development in some of those disadvantaged communities moving forward? And so the schedule that we're proposing, this is an aggressive schedule, is that we start shaping the new program starting really in June, and we start conducting workshops because the public will be very interested in commenting, just like they were in 2010 and 2011. That we launch in August, the 4th tranche, as it's already been approved, unless the board takes a different action on that. That in October, through our integrated resource planning, we have a lot more analysis of an expanded program for you to digest and consider, moving towards a ordinance which would have to be approved by City Council in December, which is a significant undertaking to get to that point where Council would be ready to approve an ordinance for an expanded FIT program. Early 2015, the 5th of our FIT 100 launches. In June, the board approves our expanded program, and then in August 2015, the expanded program launches to pick up right after the FIT 100 program. And with that, I'll address any questions on an expanded program you would like to ask.
Thank you. Just briefly, I'm very pleased and grateful that you went into so much detail on the expanded program. I personally think that the 600 megawatt goal is an important one, and hopefully one that we can achieve. I had a lot of questions about how we would go about staffing, considering, evaluating what are the various pluses and minuses. You've dealt with most of the questions, if not all the questions, that I was going to ask you. Not that you've provided, not that we know the answers yet, but clearly you know the right questions to ask. And so I think it's very helpful that you you outlined these issues that surround the expansion. Just for the record, I'd like to state that I'm very hopeful that we can move to the 600 megawatts, and I think that we need to deal with the issues that you've raised. I'm going to call on other members. The ratepayer advocate, I know, has some thoughts. I don't know how we wish to sequence these. And I understand that we had someone turn in another speaker card after the speakers were heard. I think what I'll do is ask the ratepayer advocate for his comments, then ask the other public comment to be heard, and then turn it over to commissioners for other questions that they may have. Dr. Pickle?
I will have a formal report to you by early June fitting with that schedule, which would allow, if any changes were desired to even the existing program, it would mean there would be plenty of time to address it. But as part of that process, AB 1332 was mentioned as part of this process. And AB 1332 applies to local publicly owned electric utilities, and it specifically puts the requirement on the governing board that they shall ensure, with respect to rates and charges, that ratepayers that do not receive service pursuant to the feed-in tariff are indifferent as to whether a ratepayer with electric generation facility receives service pursuant to this tariff. In other words, are there any cross subsidies occurring between ratepayer classes? And that appears to be a required certification. I'm not a lawyer. I shouldn't pretend to be one. I'm asking the city attorney's office for interpretation on that.
Thank you. Barbara, we have one additional speaker card.
Yes, Sarah Waters.
Thank you. My name is Sarah Waters, and I'm the Vice President of Project Development at Absolutely Solar, Inc., which is a developer here in Los Angeles. The developer has been based here since 2001 and has been installing systems under the net metering program, as well as developing feed-in tariff programs. We are on the front line of developing these projects, and so many of the questions that the Commission has been asking about what are the projects like and where are they being built and why are they being sited there are things that we're in contact with every day. Many of the objections that we come up against in the building community are some of the things that are causing the dropouts that Ms. Wood talked about. And these are the objections that we hear from building owners in the city of Los Angeles. First, they tend to be uncomfortable with a 20-year commitment. They are accustomed to rents that they earn from their buildings and their properties to rising over time, along with inflation. And they are also accustomed to being able to redevelop their properties if an economic force comes along and says, we're going to build condos here instead of maintain a warehouse here. Second, earnings from solar leases have been insufficient to really excite a lot of building owners. And I want to congratulate Kilroy, who was here earlier, for doing as much as they're doing. But many of their brethren in the property owning business are very resistant to doing FIT projects because they believe they can earn more over time from their properties than the FIT can offer them. And third, uncertainty. If we give a 20-year PPA to property owners, what happens to this investment they've made after 20 years? Buildings and property are perpetual investments that property owners make. And so they're pretty sure they can sell that building or that piece of property at the end of the life of the investment they've made. Solar should be thought of in the same way. When we put infrastructure in place, we have all of the racking and the conduit and the interconnection is in place, and re-upping those systems is actually pretty easy. And that's the employment that folks in the underserved communities that we've been talking about are going to have. They'll have O&M employment, and they'll have the employment of continuing to re-up these systems to produce energy far into the future, much longer than 20 years. So there are 3 recommendations that I'd like to make, and they are similar to many of my brethren here today. First is to develop a robust program of 600 megawatts or more as the staff sees fit, with robust pricing. And I'd like to see it be available continuously rather than under the present tranche system. Although I do see the wisdom, having heard the staff, with proceeding carefully and slowly. I'd like to see the term go from 20 years to 25 years. That not only will address some of the concerns of property owners with regard to the longevity of the investment, but it also dovetails with the actual power guarantees on most solar panels. Most solar panels have power guarantees on them to 25 years. Why cut off that last 5 years?
Could you wrap up your remarks, please?
Okay, sure. And the third is that I'd like to see the PPAs offered in 5-year options that would allow pricing to fluctuate over the life of those PPAs. And that actually does seem to be addressed by the staff. Last, I want to thank the Commission and the LADWP for designing the feed-in tariff. It's really revolutionary, and it is showing a leadership position in the country as a whole. So thanks.
Thank you. Commissioner, comments or questions?
I did have one more comment that didn't relate to the issues I talked about. On page 11 of the handout, feed-in tariff handout, it says LADWP's response to RPA comments. I just wanted to know if, when we have to vote on this, if we'll have the RPA's response to LADWP's response so that we can actually look at these responses.
Yes, you will have our response and suggestions as to combining the program by early June.
So clarity here, and we put it in the presentation, is that the prior board has approved a program that would automatically go to 14 cents in August. Our intent today was to give you that briefing so that you could make a decision to stop the program and direct staff to reassess, but you would have to do a motion to do that. Okay, so it's not an automatic vote. We don't bring it to you for a vote. It's already been approved, so we provide the information, and then the board says, you know what, I'd like to pass a motion to halt and direct staff to come back with a different pricing. So our intent today, when the request was to come early, is to come early to have that discussion today.
So with no further action, we proceed pursuant to the action of the prior board.
That is correct.
I'd like to make a suggestion. I think it's probably already occurring, but instead of having sort of point-counterpoint, if the ratepayer advocate and staff could get together and see where you agree and where you disagree, I think it would be helpful to us. I mean, you may just not agree on some of these things, and then you just, you have the two sides. But to the extent any agreement can be reached, that would be helpful as well.
Right, and so we did meet, and we do agree on the evaluation of the cost. So when we look at the assumption sets, as far as the number of megawatts and the cost of the program and the avoided costs, I think the analysis is accurate amongst both of us. We both agree.
We're pretty close.
We're pretty close.
It's not a
material difference. Where we disagree is that from a transparency perspective and the investment of the community that laid out a 17, 16, 15, 14, 13 program, that we believe it needs to run its course, and that much of the dialogue is on an expanded program, and now how do you do that differently in the future? So that's staff's perspective. So if we met again, we would probably come back with the exact same recommendations moving forward. And I will tell you that staff is concerned about finding that right price. We could say 13. Well, now 13 doesn't work. Well, let's make it 13 and a half while we're trying to expand the program to have something that's more robust and long-term.
Well, when the ratepayer advocate made his comments at a prior session, obviously he felt that we were pricing it incorrectly for the already approved tranches. And I understand completely the transparency and predictability issue that staff is, and frankly, I'm very sympathetic to it. What would be helpful in terms of our assessment, at least speaking for myself, would be if the ratepayer advocate still believes the pricing should change, if he could present his reasons, and if the staff believes the pricing should not change, they present their reasons so we can see these side by side.
Can I understand from a timeline perspective, Doctor, you wouldn't be ready to do that until June?
I suggest we have that discussion in early June, and that would give us time. I believe that would allow us time to do the side-by-side commentary.
Mike, does June give you?
We're happy to come back in June. The next program launch was scheduled for August, I believe, so that's fine. We'll come back and we'll do it. Originally, I looked at old presentations. We did do a side-by-side about a year and a half ago.
Yeah, but there was
we'll do the same thing.
Only
We'll bring
one
it back.
commissioner was of the current 5 were here at that time.
Right.
And
we'll do a side-by-side.
I'd love to see that presentation also, whatever the old one is.
Sure.
Because the last time the RPA came before us, it seemed like he was rather hurried to get his presentation together. And I'd hope early June rather than late June, if that's possible, because I think all we want is the information. I think there's no disagreement on support. We just want the information drilled down as much as possible without consuming too much of your time. But if that's possible, Dr. Pickle, early June?
Yes.
Thank you.
I'd like to add, I'm still standing by the integrity of our local universities, which have done comparisons to the department's research and Mr. Pickle's research, and I think it's important for us to be given that information again. I think that what was noted was that it wasn't an apples-to-apples comparison, and I think it's really important for the board to feel very comfortable with that information and to share that information with the public. So after I reviewed the information, I feel very comfortable with proceeding with the department's strategy, but I think it's really imperative that the public and the board feels very comfortable with the opinion of a third-party entity.
And let me just amplify something that I said before. I wasn't questioning at all the integrity of these institutions when I talked about funding. Because funding can come from an interested entity, and so I think that at UCLA's and USC's level, the academics involved have their reputations at stake, and I think that having their names on this is very helpful. If additional work is needed by them, then by all means, make sure that it's done, because I think that it really adds a, if the price is a little higher, what we're paying for, it provides us with support in order to get this pushed forward.
Other questions or comments?
I have one.
Commissioner Broad.
Are we going to be voting on this in June? Is that what you're...
Well, maybe yes, maybe no. If there's no action, then we proceed along the lines of what has already been approved. So the only reason that we might be voting on something is if somebody wants to change the action of the prior board that approved the first 5 tranches.
All right. I just... we talked about a balance before, about creating the program, but also being responsive to the community feedback. And that's my concern with the program. And I think that we need to either adopt some additional policies or make some adjustments. But I think that we need to show the community that, particularly the north part of the San Fernando Valley, that we've heard them and we're responsive, particularly where the solar farms, as they call them, are in residential areas and in open space. And I personally would not be comfortable with just continuing on until we've really dealt with this.
I may be missing something, but I was under the impression that the concerns expressed in the valley, the parts of the valley you're talking about, were not so much about the rooftop solar, about the FIT program, but they were about some other solar installations.
That what I heard today was the FIT program.
It's the feed-in tariff, the open space, the ground mount.
In the open space, I see.
Yeah.
Okay, okay. So it's not an issue of the pricing.
No.
It's an issue of the implications of the rooftop solar for adjacent properties.
For adjacent properties in residential areas and in open space.
Got it.
And so just one clarifying question, just so I'm happy to have the two side-by-sides come back and have that conversation. It's always best to be informed about this, but I want to make sure that we're not sending any message from here today that we're slowing down any of the previously approved tranches that are coming up that have already been previously agreed to.
I would hope so as well. The side-by-side is an issue of the pricing.
Right.
It's not an issue of the of the implications of the solar rights legislation. Well, I would associate myself with Commissioner Fleming's comment that we're not suggesting slowing down the program.
Well, are we suggesting then that we're continuing as we've been?
Well, I think at this point, the issue with regard to access is one that Councilman Fuentes is looking at. I would not like to make a substantive suggestion until having the opportunity to talk to Councilman Fuentes. I'd like to discuss with him what he has in mind and think it through. But at the same time, I would like to underscore the support that we have in principle for the FIT program.
Sorry.
What?
I just don't. I'm having trouble saying we're in support of the FIT program when there's an elephant in the room for me.
Okay.
And yes.
Commissioner, if I could. So the staff working on this program is also meeting with Councilmember Fuentes and his team to see how best we can address this very issue. And there's a possibility that we might be able to come back to, it sounds like we're going to have another discussion in June. I think between the President and the staffs working with the council member and some of the community, maybe we can come back with some options that might be available.
Yeah, that's what I'm asking for, because I think, certainly we're going to talk about pricing, but there's something else here.
Yes.
And since I'm the only commissioner from the San Fernando Valley, I really want to be included in those kinds
so
of
there is a meeting actually today that several of us are in with the council member on this very issue.
Okay, thank you.
Other comments? Thank you both very much for your informative presentation.
Sir, if
Yes.
I might offer a suggestion, there are still two presentations to go, one on procurement, the other on the budget. Procurement is intended to be educational and one of a two-part presentation, one on the process and the other on interest you had with respect to some of the reasons for non-responsiveness. You might consider potentially moving the procurement presentation to another date and then just pursuing with the budget today.
If there's no objection, I would welcome that suggestion.
I have a question. Is it, first of all, I want to thank Ms. Williams. I think she's done a fabulous job in trying to advance the transparency and the competitive of our procurement process. So thank you for working on this presentation. That being said, I already have quite a few comments that I would like to share if appropriate. So perhaps you and I could meet and maybe we could have another version of the procurement process, because it would take a lot of your time if I went through all of my comments on this. So if that's
Are you
appropriate.
comfortable with that?
I am.
Okay. Let's do it that way.
Okay.
I wanted to thank Ms. Williams also for the work that she put in, because I know she put a lot of work into it. I've had my own discussions with her, and I'm looking forward to having my own separate discussions. Maybe we can coordinate on the work, the good work that she's been doing.
And who is presenting the status report on the final budget?
While it will certainly be a team effort, we're going to start out with Mr. Leiber.
Okay. Reggie, if you could cue up the budget presentation. In the interest of time, I'm going to go over the first couple of slides very briefly. Just as a reminder, We're in front of you today for the third of 4 discussions on the budget for next year. It is kind of an extended process because it goes through 2 steps. There's the creation of a preliminary budget, which we brought to you in March and transmitted to the City Council as required by the Charter by the end of March. But you'll recall we indicated at that time, unlike most times, there are limited changes between the preliminary and the final budget. In this case, we indicated there would be a significant change in that the preliminary budget contemplated an increase in base rates for water and power. We indicated at the time that was not our plan to proceed with that. We just didn't have a time to adjust those numbers accordingly. So we indicated we'd be spending the next month or so revising those numbers to no longer need a base rate increase. And our status report today is on the changes that we've made to accomplish that objective. So this is just a status report. We will come back and ask for your approval of this final budget at the next meeting, and that will require that will allow us to fulfill the requirement of transmitting this final budget to the city by the end of May. We're going to talk about power and then water. I'm going to just provide an overview, and then the system heads are going to talk a little bit more about some of the changes that we've seen in the budget from the preliminary and the final and what implications that has for operations. But I'm just going to cover one overview slide that's going to kind of touch on some of the high points. And the format of this presentation, it covers 3 years of figures. We have 12-13, the current fiscal year, and then next year's budget, and how things have changed from the preliminary to the proposed final budget. This format also is comparable to what we use for financial planning. There's a lot more detail in financial planning and rate setting, but some of the same categories are here. I'm also going to talk next about financial metrics. We're going to be proposing some changes in our financial metrics. These are requirements that the rating agencies have for us to maintain strong credit ratings, and they have implications on rates, and we are going to be proposing some minor adjustments there. But just to walk through some of the highest level items here, we have retail revenue. That's the amount we collect from our customers. There is a slight increase from the preliminary to the final there related to some of our pass-through adjustments. We have all of our costs combined just in one line item, operating expense. You'll also see an increase here. That really masks a couple of things that are happening. In the controllable costs, operating and maintenance spending, we actually made some pretty significant reductions there, but some of those are offset by increases in our fuel and purchase power budget, so we do see a net increase there. Another significant item here is cash available for debt service. That goes to one of the financial metrics that the rating agencies look at. How much cash do we have to cover our debt service payments? They like to see a margin, a significant margin on the power system of about 2 times, so that if we have fluctuations in our operating expenses, we'll always have enough cash to cover the debt service payments. In terms of the debt service payments themselves, you see a decrease of $31 million from the preliminary to the final, and that's largely resulting from the fact that we've cut our capital spending, which is a couple of line items down from $1.7 billion down to $1.47 billion. So that's a pretty significant adjustment. There's no adjustment in the city transfer. That's based on the financial results this year. Just to go down one more line, we see borrowing for CapEx. That's a fairly significant reduction of about $476 million. That results from the fact that we have more cash on hand closing out this year, and we're spending less next year. So that gets us to our cash position, and it will lead into the next discussion on financial metrics. I just want to point out here, we are proposing to increase the amount of cash that we hold such that we will have 170 days of operating cash on hand. That's an increase from the current metric where we have a flat $300 million. And we think that that will be important to maintain our current strong credit ratings in light of some other things that are happening in the system. So turning to that next topic about financial metrics, here we have a table. In the past, when we've come to the board for rate adjustments, we've also brought some proposed changes to our financial metrics. We're not going to be asking for rate adjustments this year, but nonetheless, we think it's an appropriate time to have this discussion with you because we do propose to make one addition of a financial metric and one change of a financial metric. So these financial metrics, these are things that the rating agencies explicitly look at when they set the ratings. They want to see certain targets here with respect to each of these. They'll say for a AA rated entity it needs to be in this range, for a single A rated entity it needs to be in this range. So we need to be mindful of keeping our metrics in line with what the rating agencies are looking for. One of the changes that we're proposing is to add something called full obligation coverage. This is similar to debt service coverage. How much additional margin do we have to pay our debt? But it also looks at off-balance sheet debt through the Southern California Power Authority as well as the Intermountain Power Authority. So it's a little bit broader measure of debt service coverage. The rating agencies are increasingly looking at that metric, so we think it's important to have a goal there.
Phil, if I could just interrupt you quickly.
Sure.
Just again for context with respect to this, this is happening really at all utilities. These aren't changes necessarily that LA themselves are coming up with. Anaheim, in fact, right prior to leaving, made the same adjustments for full obligation coverage and migrating to days of cash on hand. So just wanted to give you that for framework. Go ahead.
Okay. So we've informally kind of used 1.5 times, but we think that needs to be bolstered a bit. That would be at the lowest end of what the rating agency is looking at. So 1.7 is more consistent with a AA rated entity. So we think that's an appropriate goal. And as I had made mention of before, we've typically tried to maintain at least $300 million of cash in the power system. And as our revenue goes up over time, that becomes a proportionally smaller figure. So we think it's important to move to a more standard 170 days of operating cash, which equates to about $1.1 billion. But it's not that significant an increase when you look at it because it also counts our debt reduction trust fund, which is about $500 million on top of that. Capitalization ratio, no change there. The current 68% level we think is appropriate. So when we do come to you at the next board meeting, we're going to present a resolution to adopt the budget and to make these changes in the financial metrics. And
have you discussed these things with the rating agency?
The feedback that we've gotten, we work with our financial advisor who has a lot of experience dealing with the rating agencies as well as other utilities, so they kind of know what they're looking for. We've also looked explicitly at the requirements of each rating agency. They will come out and tell you we would like to see things in a particular range if you expect to have a certain rating. So we've set this based on our understanding of those metrics, discussions with our financial advisors, and we do periodically have conversations with the rating agencies.
And again,
as well.
for context, we actually did meet with one of the major houses within the last couple of weeks. After the energy crisis, they used to have a lot more subjective criteria in how they assessed you, but they were caught quite surprised in a number of ways, and they took a lot of heat. So most of them moved to a much more empirical structure that has these thresholds. That's why you're seeing everybody start to shift in alignment with that more empirical analysis.
And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Howard to just talk about the three major programs in the power system and the changes that we've needed to make in the preliminary to the final budget with the goal of avoiding a council rate action next year.
So as Phil has pointed out, what we have in this slide is just really the changes. So we went back, looked at all of the programs and the projects, and determined what we needed to get to in order to move forward without any proposed rate increases. And the initial are the capital programs and some of the major projects. Some of these, the issues were deferred out a little bit, and that was based on just the timelines for the projects and the development activity. And then several were related to on getting better numbers in related to some of the RFPs and the procurement activity of those projects. You can see on the O&M, we didn't squeeze much out of that, and on our operating projects, it is very challenging to cut back much more on the O&M. And then on our renewable program, some of those projects are deferred a little bit in their construction. You heard some delays occurring on the feed-in tariff projects versus when we thought some of them would be coming online as well. We are coming in with lower prices on many of our PPAs than what we had originally estimated.
So what are the operational consequences of the substantial reduction in capital expenditures?
In the capital programs, these are all projects that will proceed. The repowering project at Scattergood, the new transmission line, the Beacon Solar, they're all getting built. Some of those capital costs, though, just due to the timeline of the project activity we saw, we probably wouldn't be spending that money anyhow in this next fiscal year. It will roll into the following fiscal year, and some of it now we have more definition as we're developing and building those projects on the actual cost numbers, and we were able to reduce.
To offer you some sense of assurance, capital budgets and utilities are notoriously flexible. And if you look back over the last couple of years, you can see the degree of underspend as things simply switched schedules or we got better numbers. So it's not unusual to see those levels of reductions. I'm not expecting any significant implications to really any of our programs.
So in the next slide, and this is probably where you have your greatest concern as I do, it's our power system reliability program. And you'll see in our capital elements there, we have cut in all of the major business activities, generation, distribution, substation, and the transmission. So our reduction is $153.8 million over our preliminary budget. Now, some of this is based on those contracts that we've yet to be able to bring forward. We hope to get those moving forward, but some of it is actual reductions in program activity to ensure that we can meet the budget criteria. These are projects that we need to do. We've identified them, we've prioritized them, we need to proceed, but they are not mandated. They're not part of a regulation, they're not part of a legislation, but they're preventive in nature, and we want to proceed. What we've done is try to do it in a way that as funds become available, we'll have the opportunity to then move forward with those program activities. So we'll try to have the engineering, the materials, and the things, and as funds become available, we'll be able to move quickly on those programs. On the O&M, similar, we have been able to cut some of the activities and the programs related to our O&M going forward. And with our customer opportunity programs, these are our energy efficiency, our solar incentives, both on the capital and the O&M. You can see again in our O&M, we were unable to achieve much reduction there on the energy efficiency and the solar. The changes really are because we weren't going to be able to meet the full capital spending. David Gico has gone over a number of his energy efficiency programs. He continues to ramp those up, but still based on the criteria of getting all those new programs on board, he wasn't able to achieve the spending that was initially in the preliminary budget. And so he's comfortable that we'll be able to hit the proposed budget. On the SB1 solar incentives, we had the funds allocated, and based on the current activity, we believe we could achieve the proposed budget going forward. And there was no change in the feed-in tariff. We think that will proceed here. And lastly, for the power system, we had some capital dollars associated with both the fleet purchases and the financial system replacement. As you know, for a lot of the joint activity, the power system contributes about 70% of the cost of those programs. So with the deferral of the financial system replacement, we were able to reduce the budget for that item and then defer some of the fleet purchases based on relooking at some of the criteria. We did have some reduction in the O&M plant as well, but we saw an increase in customer services. We've had that discussion on the initial budget, that customer services, we believe we need to put some greater emphasis there on the staffing levels to ensure that we can continue to get the call times down, as well as get these meters read and continue to build up that organization. So we have agreed to increase the funding for that organization going forward. With that, I'll turn it over to Jim for the water system.
Again, just like we did in power, just a few words on an overview of the Water Revenue Fund budget. Same format as before, 3 years of spending, and we'll focus mainly on what's changed between the preliminary and the final. Starting right at the top line with retail revenue, one can note that year over year we have seen an increase. It's fairly significant, and I should just point out that's almost entirely due to the drought conditions. Third year of a drought means we're having to collect more in terms of our purchased water pass-through charge, and that is why you see this increase. We see no increase from the preliminary to the final. Our forecast for how much purchased water we would need next year is pretty stable at this point. We need a lot. Looking at operating expenses, we see really almost no change between the preliminary and the final budget. We do see some more significant changes in the capital investments. There was a reduction of about $84 million in capital spending, and Mr. McDaniels will talk about where that's coming from. Total debt service doesn't change very much. The overall amount that we're going to have to borrow next year decreases somewhat because of our reduced capital spending. That gets cut by about $32 million. And like we showed on the power side, we are proposing to increase the amount of cash we hold in the water system, moving from 185 million to 150 days of operating expense, which will require an in cash of about 320 million. And that is one of the financial metrics, again, that we are proposing to change for the water side, just like on power. The water system has 3 metrics. There is no full obligation coverage because at this point the water system doesn't participate in any joint power authorities or have any off-balance sheet debt like the power side. So we're just making an adjustment to 2 of the financial metrics. In here, one of our objectives is, frankly, we're reducing one of these. We're proposing to reduce debt service coverage from 2 times down to 1.7 times. That does help relieve some rate pressure. However, that would not be in isolation viewed favorably by the rating agencies. So one of the things we're proposing to do to offset that is to increase the amount of cash that we hold on hand. Altogether, these things are designed to ensure that bondholders have reasonable assurance that we're going to be able to pay them on time and as the debt maturity schedules require. And we believe on balance these are still consistent with maintaining a strong AA credit rating. So we don't view this as imposing risk on our credit rating, but there is some potential it could be viewed differently by the rating agencies. Capitalization ratio, that is one that we do propose to increase slightly just to give us some margin. I can say that in all likelihood we won't need to use that margin because if we proceed with the establishment of a joint power authority for the water side, we would be issuing some debt through that agency that wouldn't appear on our balance sheet. But just in the abundance of caution, we think, given that we're making some changes, we'll go ahead and propose to make a change there as well. And I'll turn it over to Mr. McDaniel to talk about 4 programs for the water system.
Okay. Start out with the Safe Drinking Water Program. And let me say before we get started that you're not going to see a lot of action and the changes on these. I think the primary thing that's going to allow us to get through this year without council-approved rate action is going to be that change in that debt service coverage. That's going to be kind of the main driver that we have going. But that being said, let me just run through a few of these things. The good news is we will keep all of our regulatory compliance activities on schedule. In fact, just earlier this week, we did make our final conversion. The entire city is now on chloramines now, so we have better tasting water for all of our customers across the city. So that's a big accomplishment for us. Our Headworks Reservoir, which is under construction over by Forest Lawn, continues to be underway. We did have some shift there. The project had some delays to it, so there's some dollars that have shifted from the previous year, current year, and out year. We do have some additional expenditures for improvements at our filtration plant, for the oxygen plant, some chemical rail car improvements, and nitrification control at our tanks. But overall, we're running pretty much at the similar levels to we were in the current year. Let me move on to the water infrastructure program. Thanks, Phil. Again, the expenditure levels that we're proposing for 14-15 are pretty much in line with where we were in 13-14. In the category of infrastructure improvements, we have some increases there. This is primarily due to additional work. We have to replace the floating cover on Eagle Rock Reservoir. There's some landslide damage adjacent to our Upper Stone Canyon Reservoir that needs to be dealt with. And we also have some work to do at Tinnemaha Reservoir on the aqueduct. Down towards the bottom, you see some increase on that bottom line, water system support general. That's where we capture the water system's contribution to some of the IT systems and customer systems that the department as a whole will benefit from. Let me move on to the local water supply and remediation program. You'll see on the top line there the conservation reclamation, which also includes our stormwater capture. We've got some increases from current year to program year there. This includes our spreading basins, where we're going to be improving the spreading basins and increasing the capacity to capture and infiltrate stormwater, as well as doing some irrigation monitoring wells that is necessary in conjunction with recycled water projects. The rest of the things, you see a tick up on the groundwater remediation. This is as that project starts ramping up. We've done some monitoring wells. We're going to be engaging some more of our professional consulting assistants to get that project up and moving, and there'll be more to that in the coming years beyond the program year. Everything else is still pretty much in line with where we expected it to be. And then finally, Commissioners Levine and Funderburk's favorite, Owens Valley regulatory compliance. You see some shifts on the large line item, supplemental dust control. That basically is just the timing on the Phase 7A project. Got a little late start, so some of the dollars shifted from the earlier year to the later year. The project is pretty much on target to be completed in the at the budget that we originally expected. Everything else here is pretty much in line. We will be maintaining the various O&M activities that we have. You notice at the Owens Lake O&M, we're able to hold that steady. We don't anticipate any increases in that. That's the end of the water system report.
And one final slide, just to say a few words on staffing. The budget funds a very modest increase in staffing from the current level. We have just under 8,900 employees on board presently, and there would be funding available to increase that to 9,108. That is lower than we have forecasted for 14-15 in past years. It's a lower level of funding than we have in the present year's budget. We have funding for 9,700 staff. There was an expectation that we would actually be bringing on a lot more people than we have. We've had some real challenges in doing so. Retirements have kind of kept up with our hiring efforts, and we've really not been able to increase staffing above the current level. We've had to rely more on overtime and on contracting. So this is probably a more realistic level. Despite our belt tightening, we probably couldn't have increased it well above that anyway because of some of the hiring constraints we faced.
Excuse me, does this address what we pay in overtime and outsourcing jobs versus having them internally?
We have at the bottom here our overall labor costs, which do show overtime. In total, we're projecting about $1.7 billion of funding for these areas. We will continue to consider the costs of hiring staff versus contracting. Those evaluations are done on a case-by-case basis. In this case, what we've seen in the past couple of years is we've had to run significantly higher overtime. We've gone over our overtime budget, and we've actually underspent on the regular labor side, because as we've planned to bring on additional staff, haven't been able to do so. We've had to work existing staff longer. The outlook for next year, we'll see how that turns out. Overtime is probably a little under budgeted here. We've actually been running a significantly higher level of overtime spending. Over the past 5 years, it's ranged from about 115 to 160 million. So that may be tight, but we'll continue to monitor that closely.
I would like to just say, though, in line with that, it's important to bear in mind, one, the age of our workforce, and as was mentioned, we're having trouble even breaking even, letting alone bringing enough people on board. But secondly, when we went through the recession and there were staffing issues in other departments and tests were delayed, there's a real ripple effect for that. It took us a year and a half even to get some of those tests for customer service rep, for some of the entry-level positions reestablished. So you're going to see that impact move along for a while, and it'll be reflected in the overtime budget until we can get some of those positions successfully restaffed.
I think it's a concern just because even in the power system, you're cutting back on training. And so as we're trying to augment our staff with the people that are retiring, we need to make sure that they're properly trained in a time-efficient manner so that we're not paying premiums to outsource jobs that we could do internally. Mm-hmm. And I know there's the pro-con about not having to pay for somebody's pension. At the same token, I'm just curious as to how much we're paying to outsource a lot of work that we could do internally.
Just a final note on that issue of the aging workforce. It's very real at this utility. This is the third utility I've worked at. It's been discussed at each of them, but this is the place where it's most real. We have, just next year, 40% of our workforce eligible to retire. They won't all walk out the door at once, but a significant number will, and the whole knowledge transfer issue and bringing in replacement staff is a very key issue for each and every manager here.
Something that's also worth noticing, this impacts all utilities, but that having been said, most utilities have a whole variety of strategies they use to mitigate it. They can dual fill positions, they can fill in advance. Because we're part of an overarching civil service structure, we have very limited flexibility in terms of trying to address these bubbles in different ways. And so that it remains a concern for us. That's why the staffing issues are part of our overall integrated resource plan, where we're going to need bodies, how to get more bodies trained and in the door. It's something we're paying a lot of attention to.
And I think that is a bigger issue to discuss with the mayor's office as to how to make the department more flexible in that capacity, because we want to do right by the ratepayers. And I know that these rules and regulations have been in place for many, many years, but I feel that this is the right mayor to make these changes. So I would hope that we could work together with City Hall to make changes that serve the department well, the ratepayers well, and our employees well. That's me being optimistic.
Well, I think there's a good reason for that optimism in the various forums that we've presented, whether it's been at E&E, Mayor's Office. There's been a willingness on all sides to consider appropriate changes to these policies that have made it a little harder to address these issues than we would like.
Yeah, I think this is the time for change, so we'll see.
Okay.
It's worth discussing.
Absolutely.
That does conclude my remarks, and again, we will be back to you at the next meeting to request your approval for the 15.
There will be no changes between now and the next meeting.
We don't anticipate any changes. There could always be a last-minute errata or something.
No big changes.
For the most part, we think we're done.
Okay, thank you all very much for that presentation. We now, do we need a motion to go into closed session, Council?
No, sir, we do not.
We had a couple of points we wanted to make on
Sure.
that, if that's okay.
Yeah, feel free. Yeah, go ahead.
One, I want to congratulate them on making this budget work with a no base rate change. Of course, the pass-throughs on water and on the power do have other cause other changes, and the power revenue is assumed to go up 7.9%, and the water revenue is assumed to go up 10.1% in this process. And the difficulty in achieving this budget in 1 year illustrates the challenges we'll have next spring when contemplating a multi-year rate increase, where you're forecasting out 3 years, or some may want to do more, but even 3 years is very challenging. And we also want to thank the budget team working with us and incorporating a number of our suggestions, including a more thorough layout of labor costs. And we think this is all important in terms of future benchmarking, because we don't have a broad standard to compare a number of these capital and operating budgets other than prior year. Hopefully, the benchmarking work now underway can offer more information on the validity of the budgeting going forward in the future.
Thank you very much. I was also just thinking about the implications of this for the future, but I guess we'll deal with that in the future. Other comments or questions before we recess to go into closed session? Hearing none, we will recess to go into closed session.